The marble floor was colder than any battlefield I'd ever known, and my brother's knee pressed harder into my spine than any enemy combatant ever had. "You're under arrest for impersonating a military officer and theft of government property," Marcus snarled, twisting my arms behind my back as our grandmother's china crashed to the floor. My dress blues, still dusty from the transport plane, scraped against the imported Italian marble, while our entire family screamed in horror. Through the dining room window, I caught sight of black vehicles surrounding the house, and then Marcus's captain walked through the door, took one look at me, and snapped to attention with a salute that would change everything. The autumn air in Virginia carried the scent of wood smoke and fallen leaves as I pulled my rental car up to Grandmother Dorothy's sprawling colonial estate. 18 months. That's how long I'd been gone this time, moving through shadows in places whose names I couldn't speak aloud, carrying out operations that would never make the evening news. My hands still trembled slightly from the adrenaline of the extraction I'd completed just 72 hours ago, but I'd promised Grandmother I'd make it to her 85th birthday celebration, and Clementine Matthews never broke a promise to family. I smoothed down my dress blues one final time before walking up the familiar brick pathway. The uniform felt strange after months of tactical gear and civilian covers. Every medal and ribbon had been earned in blood and sacrifice, though most of my family believed I spent my days pushing papers at the Pentagon. It was easier that way. Safer for everyone. The front door swung open before I could knock, and there stood my cousin Sarah, her perfectly styled blonde hair catching the afternoon sun. "Clementine, oh my goodness, don't you look official?" She air-kissed both my cheeks, careful not to smudge her lipstick. "Everyone's already here. Marcus arrived about an hour ago with Jennifer and Emma." My stomach tightened at the mention of my older brother. 3 years. That's how long it had been since we'd spoken, not since that awful fight about my mysterious government job and his accusations that I was hiding something from the family. If only he knew how right he was and how much that secret protected him. The dining room buzzed with conversation and laughter. Aunt Patricia held court near the fireplace, regaling anyone who would listen with stories about her recent cruise to Alaska. Uncle Robert and my father sat in the corner deep in discussion about the stock market, and there, standing by the window with a glass of whiskey in his hand, was Marcus. He'd aged in our time apart. Gray peppered his dark hair now, and lines creased his forehead. His detective's shield caught the light as he turned and our eyes met across the room. No smile, no wave, just that cold, analytical stare I'd seen him use on suspects. "Clementine's here." Grandmother Dorothy's voice rang out as she emerged from the kitchen, her silver hair pinned up elegantly. My brave girl, finally home. I embraced her, carefully breathing in her familiar perfume. "I'm sorry, I've been away so long, Grandma." "Nonsense. You're serving your country. Your grandfather would be so proud." She patted my cheek before turning to address the room. "Everyone, please, let's sit down to dinner." The table stretched nearly the length of the room, set with Grandmother's finest china and crystal. I found my place card between Cousin Sarah and my 12-year-old niece, Emma, who stared at my uniform with wide eyes. "Aunt Clem, are those real medals?" Emma whispered as the first course was served. "They are, sweetheart. What did you do to earn them?" Before I could craft an appropriate response, Marcus's voice cut through the chatter. "Yes, Clementine. Why don't you tell us all what exactly you did to earn those medals? I'm sure we'd all love to hear your war stories." The table fell silent. Jennifer placed a warning hand on Marcus's arm, but he shrugged it off, his jaw set in that stubborn line I remembered from childhood. "Marcus," our father warned quietly, "not tonight." "No, Dad, I think tonight is perfect." Marcus set down his fork with deliberate precision. 3 years of missed holidays, birthdays, family events, 3 years of vague explanations and classified this and classified that. Don't you think your family deserves some answers? I kept my voice steady, falling back on years of training and remaining calm under pressure. You know I can't discuss the specifics of my work, Marcus. That hasn't changed. Right. Because you're so important, so vital to national security that you can't even tell your own family what you really do. The sarcasm dripped from every word. Do you know what I think? I think you're a glorified secretary playing dress-up, hiding behind classification to make yourself feel important. Emma shrank back in her chair as tension crackled through the room. Grandmother Dorothy's face had gone pale, her hands trembling as she reached for her water glass. My secure phone vibrated in my pocket. I glanced at the screen and recognized the emergency prefix. Not now, not tonight. "Excuse me," I said quietly, standing from the table. "I need to take this call." "Of course you do," Marcus laughed bitterly. "There's always a convenient phone call, isn't there?" I stepped out onto the back patio, the cool air a relief after the suffocating tension inside. "Matthew's secure," I answered. "General, we have a situation." Colonel Harrison's voice was tight with urgency. "Operation Nightshade has been compromised. We need you at the command center immediately." My blood ran cold. Nightshade was our most sensitive operation, 3 years in the making. How bad? Category 5 breach. Foreign intelligence intercepts indicate they have partial names of the strike team. We need damage control now. Understood. I'll need extraction in 30 minutes. Negative, ma'am. We can't risk a military convoy to your location. Too visible. Can you get to the safe house? I calculated distances and timing. Affirmative. Matthew's out. As I ended the call, I heard footsteps behind me. Marcus stood in the doorway, his expression dark with suspicion. "Let me guess," he said. "Another emergency. Another excuse to leave your family behind." "Marcus, please. Not now." "I heard you on the phone. General. Operation Nightshade. What kind of game are you playing, Clementine?" I tried to move past him, but he blocked my path. "Get out of my way, Marcus. I don't have time for this." "Make time." His hand moved to his hip, a gesture I recognized from years of watching him work. "You know what I've been doing these past few months, using my resources to look into my mysterious sister. And you know what I found. Nothing. No record of a General Matthews in any military database I can access. No Operation Nightshade. No classified units matching your supposed credentials." My mind raced through options. I couldn't tell him the truth, that my unit existed so far in the shadows that most 4-star generals didn't know we were real, that the databases he could access wouldn't show anything because we were ghosts by design. "Marcus, you need to stop digging for your own safety and—" "My safety." He laughed harshly. "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning. There are things you don't understand, things that only the great Clementine Matthews can handle. You always were arrogant, even as a kid. But this is a new low, stolen valor. Clem, do you have any idea what that means?" Through the glass doors, I could see the family watching us. Emma had her phone out, probably texting friends about the family drama. If only she knew that in a few minutes this drama would seem like nothing compared to what was coming. "I need to leave," I said firmly. "We can discuss this later." "No." Marcus pulled out his detective's shield. "We're going to discuss this now. I've been building a case, Clementine. Fraud impersonation of a federal officer, possible theft of government property. Those uniforms, those medals, if they're not legitimately yours, you're looking at serious federal charges." "Marcus, you have no idea what you're interfering with." "Then explain it to me." His voice rose to a shout. "For once in your life, stop hiding behind your secrets and tell me the truth." The secure phone buzzed again. 3 pulses, emergency escalation. I had to move now. "I'm sorry," I said, pushing past him toward the dining room. "I have to go." But Marcus was faster, his years of police training evident as he grabbed my wrist. "You're not going anywhere until we sort this out." And that's when everything went to hell. "Everyone, I need your attention." Marcus's voice boomed through the dining room as he maintained his grip on my wrist, pulling me back inside. The family members froze, mid-bite forks suspended in air as the scene unfolded before them. "I'm sorry to do this here tonight, but I can't stay silent any longer." Jennifer stood up, her face flushed with embarrassment. "Marcus, please. This is your grandmother's birthday." "Sit down, Jen." His tone brooked no argument, and she slowly sank back into her chair. "What I'm about to share affects everyone in this room." He released my wrist but positioned himself between me and the door. With his free hand, he pulled out a thick manila folder from inside his jacket. He'd come prepared for this moment. My heart sank as I recognized the tactical precision of his ambush. He'd chosen tonight deliberately knowing I couldn't easily escape a room full of family. For the past 6 months, Marcus began his detective's courtroom voice filling the space. "I've been conducting an investigation into our sister's alleged military service." He opened the folder, spreading photographs across the white tablecloth between the crystal glasses and china plates. "What I found should concern every person at this table." Grandmother Dorothy's hand flew to her chest. "Marcus, what is the meaning of this?" "The meaning, Grandma, is that Clementine has been lying to all of us, possibly for years." He pointed to the first photograph, a grainy surveillance image of me entering a nondescript building in downtown Washington. "This is your granddaughter entering a facility that, according to all government records, doesn't exist. The address is registered to a textile import company that hasn't operated since 1993. Sarah leaned forward, her law degree suddenly relevant. "Marcus, how did you obtain these photographs? This looks like surveillance footage." "I have sources," he said curtly. "Fellow law enforcement who were as concerned as I was when red flags started appearing." My secure phone buzzed insistently. Every second I stayed here increased the risk to my team, but leaving now would only confirm Marcus's suspicions in the family's eyes. I remained silent, knowing that anything I said could compromise operational security. Marcus spread out more photographs. There I was at Fort Bragg at a NATO facility in Brussels, boarding an unmarked military aircraft. Each image was date-stamped, building his case methodically. Now here's where it gets interesting. He continued pulling out financial documents. Bank records show regular deposits into Clementine's account, large sums always just under the federal reporting limit. The timing corresponds with her mysterious deployments. Uncle Robert, ever the accountant, adjusted his glasses to examine the papers. These amounts, they're substantial, far more than a military salary even for a general. Exactly, Marcus nodded grimly, which raises the question, where is this money really coming from? My father finally spoke, his voice quiet but firm. "Son, you're walking down a dangerous path here." "Am I, Dad?" Marcus turned on him. "Or are you complicit in this? You were military. You have connections. Have you been helping her maintain this charade, saying, ja, selling tantin di Marcus?" My mother's sharp voice cut through the room. "How dare you accuse your father?" "How dare I?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "How dare she?" He pointed at me. "Do you have any idea what stolen valor means to real veterans, to people who actually served?" My father stood slowly, his aged hands gripping the table. Despite being in his 70s, Thomas Matthews still carried himself like the soldier he'd once been. "I've examined your sister's ribbons and medals myself. Some I recognize. Others—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Others are unfamiliar to me. But that doesn't mean they're fraudulent. Doesn't it?" Marcus pulled out another document. "This is a comprehensive list of all military decorations currently authorized by the Department of Defense. Half of what she's wearing doesn't appear on this list." Cousin Sarah, ever the lawyer, interjected. "Marcus' absence of public documentation doesn't necessarily indicate fraud. There could be classifications involved that—" "Classifications!" Marcus spat the word like it tasted bitter. "The universal excuse. Everything's classified. Everything's need to know. Well, I think her family needs to know if she's committing federal crimes." Emma's eyes were wide as saucers, her phone forgotten in her lap. "Uncle Marcus, why are you being so mean to Aunt Clem?" "I'm not being mean, sweetheart. I'm trying to protect this family from someone who's been lying to us." He pulled out more papers. "These are transcripts from federal databases. No General Matthews in any branch. No record of her supposed unit. No Operation Nightshade, which I heard her mention on the phone just now." The room erupted in whispers and gasps. Aunt Patricia, always one for drama, clutched her pearl necklace. "Clementine, dear, surely you can explain this." I met her eyes steadily. "I cannot discuss my work, I'm sorry." "Cannot or will not," Marcus pressed, "because there's a significant legal distinction." Sarah stood up, her courtroom instincts kicking in. "Marcus, if you're making formal accusations, then Clementine has the right to legal counsel before she'll need it." Marcus's voice was cold. "The penalties for impersonating a federal officer include up to 3 years in prison. Theft of government property, those medals, that uniform, adds another 10. If she's been defrauding the government for financial gain, we're looking at 20 to life." Jennifer finally found her voice. "Marcus, please, think about what you're doing. This is your sister." "My sister died 3 years ago when she chose her lies over her family." The pain in his voice was raw, and I understood then that this wasn't really about stolen valor or fraud. This was about a brother who felt abandoned, who'd watched his sister disappear into shadows and had filled that void with suspicion and resentment. "I have a warrant," Marcus announced, pulling out an official-looking document. "Signed by a federal judge based on the evidence I've presented. Clementine Matthews, you're under arrest for impersonation of a federal officer and theft of government property." The room exploded. Grandmother Dorothy swayed in her chair, and Uncle Robert rushed to steady her. My mother started crying while my father remained rigidly still, his military bearing the only thing keeping him upright. Emma began recording on her phone, her hands shaking. "Sarah," I said quietly to my cousin, "when this is over, I'll need you to—" "When this is over, you'll be in federal custody," Marcus interrupted. He pulled out handcuffs, the metal glinting in the chandelier light. "Stand up and turn around." "Marcus." I kept my voice level despite the chaos. "You don't understand what you're doing. My unit, my mission, people's lives depend on—" "Your unit doesn't exist." He slammed his hand on the table, making the china jump. "I've checked every database, called in every favor, traced every lead. You're not some secret agent, Clementine. You're a fraud, and I'm going to prove it." The secure phone buzzed one final time. Emergency extraction protocol activated. They knew I'd been compromised. In minutes, this house would be surrounded by people whose job was to protect state secrets at any cost. But Marcus wouldn't wait that long. "Stand up," he ordered again. "Don't make me add resisting arrest to your charges." I looked around the room at my family, some terrified, some confused, some already choosing sides. This wasn't how they were supposed to find out. There were protocols for family notification, careful procedures designed to protect everyone involved. But Marcus had shattered those protocols with his relentless pursuit of a truth he wasn't cleared to know. "I'm sorry," I said to the room at large, then specifically to Grandmother Dorothy. "I'm so sorry your birthday has been ruined." "Just tell him he's wrong," she pleaded, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "Tell him this is all a misunderstanding." But I couldn't. Not without violating oaths I'd sworn not, without endangering operations and operatives around the world. So I remained silent as Marcus approached with the handcuffs, his partner suddenly appearing in the doorway with 3 other officers. "You called backup?" Jennifer asked, incredulous. "To arrest your own sister at your grandmother's birthday?" "I called backup to arrest a federal criminal," Marcus corrected. "The family connection is unfortunate but irrelevant." As he reached for my hands, I made a decision. I could resist, could use any of the dozen techniques I knew to incapacitate him and his officers. But that would only fuel his narrative. So I submitted, allowing him to pull my arms behind my back. "Marcus, wait." My father's command voice rang out, but it was too late. The metal clicked around my wrists as sirens wailed in the distance. Through the window, I could see vehicles approaching fast, but they weren't local police. The extraction team had arrived, and in seconds, Marcus would learn just how wrong he'd been about everything. The handcuffs bit into my wrists as Marcus shoved me forward, his grip unnecessarily rough. My training had taught me to endure far worse, but the emotional pain of my own brother's betrayal cut deeper than any physical discomfort. As he forced me toward the door, my hip struck the corner of Grandmother Dorothy's antique sideboard, and I felt the small emergency beacon concealed in my belt activate. "Easy with her," Jennifer protested, rising from her chair. "Marcus, she's not some street criminal." "She's exactly that." Marcus snarled, his fingers digging into my upper arm. "A criminal who happened to be born into our family." Through the dining room window, I caught sight of movement outside. Not the extraction team yet. They'd need at least 4 more minutes. These were Marcus's backup units, local police who had no idea what they were walking into. "Uncle Marcus, stop." Emma had her phone raised, recording everything. "You're hurting her." "Emma, put that away," her father ordered, but the teenager stood her ground. "No, everyone needs to see this. You're arresting Aunt Clem without even letting her explain." My mother moved toward us, her face streaked with tears. "Please, Marcus, can't we discuss this like a family?" "We are way past family discussions, Mom." He continued, pushing me forward. "Do you know what she said outside? She threatened me, warned me about my safety if I kept investigating." "That's not what I started, but Marcus cut me off. "Save it for your interrogation." He nodded to his partner, Detective Ray Hutchinson, a thin man with nervous eyes who looked deeply uncomfortable with the situation. "Ray, clear a path. We're taking her in." That's when everything shifted. The sound came first, the distinctive whir of helicopter rotors approaching fast and low. Not news choppers or police air support. These were military birds, and from the sound pattern, I recognized them as MH-60s configured for special operations. Marcus heard it too, his grip tightening. "What the hell?" Through the windows, we could see vehicles screeching to a halt outside. Black suburban SUVs with government plates surrounding the house in a textbook security perimeter formation. Uniformed figures in tactical gear poured out weapons at the ready. "Federal agents," someone shouted through a loudspeaker. "Everyone remain where you are." Marcus's backup officers fumbled for their radios, confusion evident on their faces. They'd expected a simple arrest of a fraud suspect, not a military-style operation. "This is Detective Marcus Matthews, badge number 4791. Marcus shouted toward the door. "I have a federal arrest warrant. These men need to stand down." See, the front door burst open and tactical operators flooded in. But their weapons weren't trained on me. They were pointed at Marcus and his officers. "Drop your weapons," the lead operator commanded. "Now, are you insane?" Marcus pulled me behind him, ironically trying to protect me from what he assumed was a threat. "I'm a police detective executing a lawful arrest." That's when Captain James Morrison walked in. I recognized him immediately. Marcus's commanding officer, a 25-year veteran of the force who'd risen through the ranks with a spotless record. He took in the scene, me in handcuffs, Marcus defiant tactical operators with fingers on triggers, and a room full of terrified family members. His gaze landed on my uniform, traveled up to my face, then focused on the ribbons and rank insignia. I saw the exact moment recognition dawned. The color drained from his weathered face. "Mother of God," Morrison whispered, then louder with unmistakable urgency. "Detective Matthews, release her immediately." Captain Marcus's confusion was evident. "Sir, I have a warrant. The evidence—" "Release her now." Morrison's voice cracked like a whip. Then he did something that stopped every heart in the room. He snapped to attention and saluted. Not the casual gesture of a police captain acknowledging a military officer, but the rigid, perfect salute of someone who just recognized a superior officer of significant rank. "General Matthews," he said formally, "I apologize for this misunderstanding. We weren't informed you were in the area." The room went utterly silent. Even Emma lowered her phone mouth agape. Marcus stood, frozen, his hands still on my arms but no longer restraining, just holding on as if I were the only thing keeping him upright. "Captain, what are you doing?" Ray Hutchinson asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "This woman is a fraud. We have evidence." "The only evidence you have," Morrison said sharply, "is proof that you've been investigating someone so far above your clearance level that we'll be lucky if we only lose our badges." "Sir, I don't understand." Marcus's voice had lost all its earlier confidence. "There's no General Matthews in any military database. I checked." "You checked databases you had access to," Morrison interrupted. "Jesus Christ, Matthews, didn't it occur to you that someone might exist above your clearance level?" A new figure entered the room. General Patricia Hawkins, Joint Special Operations Command. 4 stars on her shoulders and an expression that could have frozen hell. I'd served under her for 7 years, and I'd seen that look reduce hardened operators to stammering recruits. "Clementine," she said warmly, crossing to embrace me despite the handcuffs. "Are you injured?" "No, ma'am. Just a misunderstanding with family." She turned to Marcus, and her warmth evaporated. "Detective Matthews, I presume the one who's been making inquiries about classified operations." Marcus couldn't speak. He just nodded, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and growing horror. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Hawkins continued. "Your investigation has been lighting up intelligence networks for months. Foreign services have taken notice. Operations have been compromised. Lives have been put at risk." I was just," Marcus stammered. "You were just a local detective playing in waters so deep you can't even see the surface." She gestured to one of her aides. "Get those handcuffs off General Matthews immediately." As the aide produced a key, Morrison stepped forward. "General Hawkins, I take full responsibility. I should have recognized the signs when Detective Matthews came to me with his concerns. Your failure to recognize classification markers is the least of our problems," Hawkins replied coldly. "We have 3 operatives missing in Eastern Europe because their covers were blown. The intelligence leak has been traced directly to Detective Matthews's inquiries." "No," Marcus breathed. "That's not—" I was careful. "I only use secure channels." "Secure by police standards," I said quietly as the handcuffs came off. "Not by ours." The family watched in stunned silence as I rubbed my wrists. Grandmother Dorothy had one hand pressed to her chest, the other gripping Uncle Robert's arm. My parents sat rigidly processing this revelation. Sarah's legal mind was clearly racing, trying to reconcile what she was witnessing with everything she thought she knew about military law. "Clementine," my father said slowly, "are you really a general?" Before I could answer, Hawkins intervened. "General Matthews commands a Joint Special Operations Task Force that officially doesn't exist. Her unit handles missions that are so classified, most people with top-secret clearance aren't aware of them." "But the money," Uncle Robert said weakly. "The deposits Marcus showed us." "Hazard pay," Hawkins said simply. "Do you have any idea what your niece has sacrificed for this country? The missions she's led? The threats she's neutralized before they could reach American soil?" Marcus sank into a chair, his legs no longer supporting him. "The FBI, they told me they wanted her detained." Morrison's expression darkened. "What FBI agents? When did they contact you?" "Last week. They said they'd been monitoring her activities, that she was a security risk." Marcus pulled out his phone with shaking hands. "I have their cards." Hawkins snatched the phone, examined the screen, then showed it to one of her intelligence officers. They exchanged a look that made my blood run cold. "These aren't FBI," the intelligence officer said. "The contact numbers route to servers in Belarus." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Marcus had been manipulated by foreign intelligence services who'd identified him as the weak link in my operational security. "Oh God," Marcus whispered, "what have I done?" "You've compromised a classified unit and put American lives at risk," Hawkins said bluntly. "At minimum, you're looking at charges under the Espionage Act." Jennifer let out a sob. Emma dropped her phone, the device clattering on the hardwood floor. The local officers who'd accompanied Marcus were slowly backing toward the door, clearly wanting no part of this federal nightmare. "General Hawkins," I said formally, "request permission to speak freely." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Granted." I turned to face my family, seeing them all clearly for perhaps the first time in years. The secrets I'd kept, the lies I'd told, the birthdays and holidays I'd missed, all in service of a mission they couldn't know about. Now, whether I wanted it or not, the veil was being lifted. "Everything Marcus accused me of was born from love," I said quietly. "He saw his sister disappearing, coming home injured, unable to explain. He did what any good detective would do. He investigated. The fact that he was manipulated by foreign agents doesn't change his intention." "Clementine," Hawkins warned, but I pressed on. "My unit exists in the shadows because that's where we're needed. We handle the threats that can't be addressed through normal channels, the operations that would cause international incidents if they were attributed to the United States. Yes, I've lied to you all. Yes, I've kept secrets. But every missed Christmas, every vague explanation, every time I couldn't tell you where I'd been or what I'd done, it was to keep you safe. Safe from what?" my mother asked through her tears. That's when the windows exploded. Glass shards flew like deadly rain as tactical smoke grenades rolled across Grandmother Dorothy's Persian rugs. The acrid smoke filled the dining room in seconds, turning the elegant space into a chaos of screaming, coughing shadows. My training kicked in before conscious thought. I grabbed Emma and my grandmother, pulling them under the heavy oak table as automatic weapons fire erupted outside. "Contacts north and east," someone shouted over the tactical net. "Multiple hostiles breaching the perimeter." General Hawkins had her sidearm out, barking orders into her radio. "Lock down the airspace. I want QRF here now." She turned to the family members cowering behind overturned furniture. "Everyone stay down." Marcus, his police instincts overriding his shock, had pulled Jennifer behind the china cabinet. His service weapon was in his hand, though. Against the firepower outside, it might as well have been a water pistol. "What's happening?" he shouted over the noise. "The people who used you to find me," I called back, then turned to the tactical team leader. "Sergeant status. 12 to 15 hostiles, military-grade weapons and training. They're not trying to breach. This is suppressive fire." I understood immediately. This wasn't an assassination attempt, it was a distraction. While we were pinned down here, something else was happening. My secure phone, miraculously intact, buzzed with an emergency alert. "They're hitting the safe house," I told Hawkins. "Team 7 is compromised." Her face went grim. Team 7 was our deep cover unit in Eastern Europe, the same one Marcus's investigation had inadvertently exposed. If foreign operatives were moving against them now... "Ray, get on the radio," Marcus ordered his partner. "Get every unit in the county here now." "Negative," Hawkins countermanded. "Local law enforcement stays clear. This is our operation." She activated her throat mic. "All units weapons free. Protect the civilians." The tactical team moved with lethal efficiency, returning fire through the shattered windows. I stayed low, keeping Emma's head down as she sobbed against my shoulder. Across the room, I could see my father shielding my mother, his old combat instincts still sharp despite his age. "Captain Morrison," Hawkins shouted over the firefight. "Contact the Pentagon, authentication code Zulu 77. Tell them Prometheus is blown." Morrison, to his credit, didn't question the order, despite having no idea what Prometheus meant. He pulled out his phone hand steady, even as bullets whined overhead. Prometheus. Marcus looked at me, understanding beginning to dawn. "That's your unit's designation." Before I could answer, the firing stopped. The sudden silence was almost more terrifying than the chaos. Outside, we could hear vehicle doors slamming, engines roaring to life. "They're withdrawing," the team leader reported. "No pursuit." "Negative. Secure the scene." Hawkins helped grandmother Dorothy to her feet, the elderly woman trembling but uninjured. "Is anyone hurt?" Miraculously, beyond some cuts from flying glass, the family was intact. Emma clung to me, her earlier bravado completely shattered. "Aunt Clem, who are those people?" "Foreign intelligence operatives," I said, gently checking her for injuries. "People who don't want me doing my job." "Your job." Aunt Patricia emerged from behind the overturned buffet table, her perfect hair now wild, her designer dress torn. "What kind of job involves people shooting at family dinners?" "The kind that keeps family dinners from being shot at every day," I replied quietly. Captain Morrison lowered his phone, his face pale. "General Hawkins, I've reached the Pentagon. They're asking if you need the nuclear emergency support team activated." The room went silent again. Every civilian face turned toward us with identical expressions of shock. "Nuclear?" My mother's voice was barely a whisper. "Clementine, what have you been involved in?" Hawkins made a decision. "Tell them Nest isn't required, but we need immediate extraction for General Matthews and information containment protocols for the civilians." Information containment. Sarah's lawyer instincts flared. "You can't just—" "Ms. Wellington." Hawkins used Sarah's married name with precision. "What you've witnessed tonight falls under the National Security Act. You'll all be required to sign non-disclosure agreements." "After someone just tried to kill us," Uncle Robert's voice cracked with indignation, "we have a right to know why." "You have a right to stay alive," Hawkins countered, "which becomes significantly harder if you know classified information that foreign governments want." Marcus stood slowly glass, crunching under his feet. His service weapon hung loose in his hand, forgotten. "This is real, all of it. You're really—" "I really am who I said I was," I told him. "Just not in any database you could access." Morrison's phone rang. He listened briefly, then held it out to Hawkins. "Ma'am, it's the Secretary of Defense." She took the phone, stepping away for privacy. I could hear her crisp responses. "Yes, sir, understood. Immediate implementation." While she spoke, I turned to my family. They deserved some explanation for why their world had just exploded into violence. 3 years ago, I began carefully. A terrorist cell acquired materials for a radiological weapon, a dirty bomb. Their target was a college football stadium during a championship game. 60,000 people. The room was utterly silent, everyone hanging on my words. My unit was tasked with stopping them. We succeeded, but I was exposed to radiation during the operation. I spent 2 months in a classified medical facility. When Marcus called repeatedly asking where I was, what could I tell him? That I was dying of radiation poisoning because I'd wrestled a nuclear device away from terrorists? Marcus's face crumpled. "The time you missed Dad's surgery, you said you were on assignment." "I was in an isolation ward, my white blood cell count near 0. I met his eyes. "I wanted to be there. God, Marcus, I wanted to be there so badly. But I couldn't risk exposing you all to what I'd been exposed to." "The money," Uncle Robert said weakly. "Those deposits, hazard pay, death benefits paid out while I was still alive because they didn't think I'd survive." I laughed bitterly. "I used them to pay off Mom and Dad's mortgage fund, Emma's college account, keep grandmother's house out of foreclosure when the market crashed." "You saved us." Grandmother Dorothy's voice trembled. "All those times I thought it was lucky, windfalls, unexpected inheritance from distant relatives." "There were no distant relatives, Grandma. Just your granddaughter trying to take care of her family the only way she could, from the shadows." Hawkins ended her call and returned to the group. "The Secretary has authorized limited disclosure. Given the security breach and the attempt on your lives, you need to understand the gravity of the situation." She gestured to me. General Matthews commands Joint Special Operations Task Force 77, codename Prometheus. They handle operations that are beyond black, missions that don't exist against threats that are never acknowledged. Threats like what? Jennifer asked, still clutching Marcus's arm. Weapons of mass destruction in terrorist hands, assassination plots against world leaders, biological weapons programs, cyber attacks that could cripple infrastructure. Hawkins's tone was matter of fact. The kind of threats that, if they succeeded, would change the world overnight. And my daughter faces these. My mother looked at me with new eyes. Alone. Not alone, I corrected. With the finest operators in the world, men and women who've sworn the same oaths I have, who've made the same sacrifices. Sacrifices, Marcus repeated hollowly. I called you a fraud, a fake. I had you arrested in front of our grandmother. His voice broke. I nearly got you killed because I couldn't accept that my little sister had become something beyond my understanding. You couldn't have known, I said gently. That was the point. If my own brother, a trained detective, could look at me and see nothing but a paper pusher playing soldier, then my cover was working. Your cover, he laughed bitterly. Do you have any idea what I've done? My investigation, the people I talked to, the queries I made. He turned to Hawkins. You said 3 operatives are missing. We're missing, she corrected. The alert General Matthews received during the attack, Team 7 went dark to evade capture. They've re-established contact. Your investigation did compromise them, but they're professionals. They adapted. Relief flooded Marcus's face, but guilt quickly replaced it. I still put them at risk, put Clementine at risk, put our whole family at risk. Yes, you did, Hawkins said bluntly. The foreign operatives who manipulated you have been tracking General Matthews for years. You gave them the opening they needed. So, what happens now? Sarah asked, her legal mind already working through implications. Witness, protection, relocation. Now, Hawkins said, we clean up this mess. General Matthews has a decision to make. She looked at me meaningfully. Your cover is blown. Your family is exposed. Continuing operations would put them at constant risk. I understood what she wasn't saying. This was my exit opportunity. After 15 years of service, multiple injuries, countless missions, I could walk away. Honorable discharge, full benefits, a chance at the normal life I'd sacrificed. Emma's hand found mine small and trembling. I thought about all the birthdays I'd missed, the Christmases, where my chair sat empty, the family moments that had passed without me. Then I thought about Team 7, about the operation still in progress, about threats that wouldn't stop just because I was tired. The family needs protection, I said finally. Full-time security details, hardened homes, the works. Agreed, Hawkins nodded. And I looked at Marcus, saw the guilt and pain in his eyes. My brother, who'd only wanted to protect his family from what he thought was a lie, who'd been used by enemies he didn't even know existed. And we bring him in, I decided. Full disclosure, full protection. If foreign intelligence already knows about him, keeping him in the dark only makes him more vulnerable. Bring me in, Marcus echoed. I don't understand. She's offering to read you into the program, Morrison explained, understanding dawning on his face. Security clearance, classification, briefings, the whole thing. You'd know what she really does, but you'd also be bound by the same secrecy. All of them, I corrected. The whole family. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. No more lies, no more secrets between us. Hawkins frowned. That's highly irregular. Civilian family members aren't typically... My family isn't typical, I interrupted. They've already paid the price for my service. They deserve to know what that service actually entails. I'll need to clear it with the secretary, Hawkins said, but her tone suggested she'd support the request. As she made another call, I turned back to my family. They looked shell-shocked, but resolute. Even Aunt Patricia, for all her frivolity, had steel in her spine when it counted. This is what you've been doing, my father asked quietly. All these years. Since I was 22, I confirmed. Recruited out of college, trained in facilities that don't exist, fighting wars that are never declared. And you never told us because I loved you too much to paint targets on your backs. I gestured at the destroyed dining room, though it seems that happened anyway. No, Marcus said firmly. I painted those targets. This is on me. He looked at the assembled family. I'm going to fix this. Whatever it takes, whatever I need to do, I'm going to make this right. That's when we heard the helicopters returning. Not hostile this time. I recognized the flight pattern of our medical evacuation birds. Transport's here, one of the tactical team members reported. General, we need to move. But Grandmother Dorothy stepped forward, her elderly frame straight with determination. If you're taking my granddaughter, you're taking all of us. This family has been broken by secrets long enough. It's time we stood together. And in that moment, looking at my grandmother's fierce expression, my brother's determined face, my parents' protective stance, I realized that perhaps Marcus's investigation had accomplished something unintended. For the first time in 15 years, I wouldn't have to face the darkness alone. My family knew the truth, and instead of running, they were standing with me. The war had come home, but home was ready to fight back. The helicopters touched down on Grandmother Dorothy's lawn, their rotors whipping the autumn leaves into golden tornadoes. As medical personnel rushed toward the house with trauma kits, I watched my family process what they'd just learned. The shock was giving way to something else, a mixture of awe, fear, and in Marcus's case, crushing guilt. General Matthews, a young lieutenant, approached, saluting crisply. We have secure transport ready for you, and he glanced uncertainly at my family. Your designated companions. My entire family will be accompanying us to the facility, I stated firmly. Have we prepared for that? Yes, ma'am, General Hawkins radioed ahead. We have 3 birds ready for transport. My father stepped forward, the broken glass crunching under his feet. Clementine, wait. His voice carried the authority of a man who'd commanded soldiers long before I was born. Before we go anywhere, I need to tell them something. The activity around us seemed to pause. Even the tactical teams securing the perimeter sensed something significant was about to happen. My father, Thomas Matthews, Vietnam veteran and retired colonel, had never been one for dramatic revelations. But the way he stood now, shoulders squared despite his 74 years, told me everything was about to change again. Thomas. My mother touched his arm. What are you talking about? He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw an apology 15 years in the making. I've known about Clementine's real position for the past 5 years. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus turned slowly, his face a mask of disbelief. You... What? 5 years ago, I received a visit. My father continued. 2 men in suits, credentials I'd never seen before. They told me my daughter had been gravely injured in a classified operation. They couldn't tell me where or how, but they wanted me to know she might not survive. My chest tightened. I remembered that operation. Colombia, a cartel with connections to international terror networks. The explosion that had nearly killed me, the months of recovery in a facility that didn't officially exist. You never said anything? My mother whispered. All those nights I cried wondering where she was. I was under a legal obligation to remain silent, my father said heavily. They made it clear that any disclosure would not only violate federal law, but could endanger Clementine's life. So you lied to Mom, Marcus's voice was rising. You lied to all of us. I protected all of you. My father's command voice emerged sharp enough to cut steel. Do you think it was easy watching your mother worry, seeing you grow bitter and suspicious? But they showed me photographs. Marcus. Pictures of what happened to another operative whose family couldn't keep secrets. The cartels didn't just kill him, they tortured his wife and children first. Jennifer gasped, pulling Emma closer. The teenager had gone pale, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. They gave me a choice, my father continued. Know the truth and keep silent, or remain ignorant and risk accidentally exposing her. I chose knowledge because at least then I could help maintain her cover. Help maintain? Marcus laughed bitterly. Is that what you call it? While I was investigating my own sister thinking she was a fraud, you knew the truth and let me make a fool of myself. I let you be a good detective, my father corrected. Your genuine belief in her deception was the best cover she could have. If you trained in investigation saw nothing suspicious beyond what we wanted you to see, then foreign intelligence would reach the same conclusion. I stepped between them before the confrontation could escalate. Dad, you never told me you knew. His weathered face softened. You had enough burdens, sweetheart. Knowing that I knew would have just added one more secret for you to carry. This is insane, Aunt Patricia interjected. Thomas, you're telling us you've been lying to your own wife for 5 years. I've been protecting my family for 5 years, he corrected firmly, just as Clementine has been protecting all of us, and this nation, for far longer. General Hawkins cleared her throat. As touching as this family revelation is, we need to move. Intelligence indicates the hostile forces are regrouping. This location is no longer secure. But Grandmother Dorothy wasn't finished. The matriarch of our family stepped forward, her aged hands clasped in front of her. Since we're sharing secrets, I have one of my own. We all turned to stare at her. Even in the midst of shattered windows and tactical teams, she maintained her dignity. I've known since the beginning, she said simply. This time, even I was shocked. Grandma. She smiled a sad, knowing expression. Your grandfather wasn't just any soldier, dear one. He was Office of Strategic Services during the war. The things he did in occupied France, the secrets he carried. I learned early what it meant to love someone who lived in shadows. She moved to an overturned bookshelf, carefully extracting a leather-bound album from the debris. When you were recruited out of college, when you told us you'd be working as a military consultant, I recognized the signs, the vague explanations, the sudden trips, the injuries you couldn't quite explain. She opened the album, revealing old black and white photographs. A young man in uniform, but not standard military dress. The insignia were different, older, from an era when America's intelligence services were still being born. Your grandfather died thinking his secret would die with him, she continued, but I knew. Just as I knew when I saw the same look in your eyes, the weight of carrying necessary secrets, of doing dark things for good reasons. You never said anything, I managed through a tight throat. What could I say? I know you're lying about your job just like your grandfather lied about his. She shook her head. I did what I'd learned to do. I supported you from afar, prayed for your safety, and trusted that you were serving a greater purpose. Jesus! Marcus slumped against the wall. Does anyone in this family tell the truth? We tell the truth that keeps people alive, my father said firmly. That's what service means, son. Sometimes the greatest act of love is maintaining a lie. Emma, who'd been silent through all of this, suddenly spoke up. So everyone knew except us, except me and Mom and Uncle Marcus. Not everyone, Sarah interjected. I had no idea, though now some things make more sense. She looked at me. That case I consulted you on 3 years ago, the international custody dispute. You knew things about the father's background that weren't in any database I could access. I nodded. He was a former asset who'd gone rogue. I couldn't tell you, but I could point you in the right direction. This is what we are, Jennifer asked, her voice shaking. A family of spies and lies. We're a family of patriots, Grandmother Dorothy corrected firmly. 4 generations of Matthews have served this country, some in uniform, some in shadows. The methods change, but the commitment remains. General Hawkins stepped forward again. This is all fascinating family history, but we really do need to move. General Matthews, the secretary, is waiting for our arrival. The Secretary of Defense wants to meet us. Uncle Robert looked faint. Among others, Hawkins said cryptically. As we prepared to board the helicopters, Marcus caught my arm. Clem, God, I don't even know where to start. Start with forgiving yourself, I told him. You did exactly what you should have done given the information you had. A good detective investigates anomalies. You couldn't have known you were being manipulated by professionals who've been doing this longer than you've been alive. I could have trusted you, he said brokenly. I could have believed there was a good reason for the secrets. Trust without verification isn't trust. It's blind faith. And blind faith gets people killed in my world. I squeezed his shoulder. Your investigation may have exposed me, but it also revealed a foreign intelligence operation on American soil. You did your job, Marcus. Now let me do mine. As we loaded into the helicopters, I took one last look at Grandmother Dorothy's house. The elegant colonial, with its shattered windows and bullet-scarred walls, looked like a metaphor for our family, damaged by secrets and violence, but still standing. Ma'am. The pilot was waiting. I helped my grandmother into the aircraft, then my mother, ensuring everyone was secured. As the helicopter lifted off, I saw the full extent of the damage below. Tactical vehicles surrounded the property, investigators were already processing the scene, and somewhere in that organized chaos was evidence that would lead us to whoever had orchestrated this attack. Where exactly are we going? Sarah asked over the rotor noise. First to a secure facility for medical evaluation and debriefing, I replied. Then, that depends on what the secretary decides. Decides about what? Marcus asked. About whether a burned operative with a compromised family can still serve her country, I said honestly, and whether that family is willing to pay the price for that service. Through the window, I watched the Virginia countryside pass below. Somewhere out there, enemies were regrouping, planning their next move. 3 members of Team 7 were still in hostile territory, their safety dependent on decisions made in the next few hours. The weight of command settled on my shoulders again, familiar but heavier now that my family would share it. My father reached across the cabin and took my hand. Whatever happens next, we face it together. No more secrets between us. No more secrets. I agreed, though I knew that wasn't entirely true. There were things about my service that could never be shared, operations that would remain classified long after we were all gone. But the fundamental truth, who I was, what I did, why I did it, that could finally be known by the people who mattered most. As the helicopter banked toward Washington, I allowed myself a moment of vulnerability. For 15 years, I'd carried the weight alone. Now, for better or worse, my family would help me carry it. The question was whether they were strong enough for the burden. Looking at their faces, Marcus's determination, my parents' resolve, Emma's brave curiosity, Grandmother Dorothy's steel-spined acceptance, I thought maybe they were. The war had indeed come home, but the Matthews family had been fighting wars for generations. We just hadn't all been fighting them together. The secure facility was unlike anything my family had imagined. Hidden beneath an unremarkable office building in suburban Maryland, the underground complex stretched for acres. As we descended in a freight elevator that required 3 separate authentication protocols, I watched their faces reflect the growing understanding of the world I inhabited. "This is like something out of a movie," Emma whispered, her eyes wide as blast doors sealed behind us. "Movies get it wrong," I replied. "Real security is boring, redundant, methodical. It's not about impressive technology. It's about layers of protection that assume every other layer will fail." We emerged into a reception area that could have belonged to any corporate headquarters except for the armed guards and biometric scanners. General Hawkins led us through another series of checkpoints until we reached a conference room with no windows and walls that I knew were lined with copper mesh to prevent electronic surveillance. "Please sit." Hawkins gestured to the chairs arranged around a polished table. "Coffee will be brought shortly. We have approximately 30 minutes before the Joint Chiefs arrive." The Joint Chiefs? My mother's voice rose an octave, as in the military commanders of the entire country. 3 of them, yes, along with representatives from the CIA, NSA, and FBI. Hawkins' expression was grim. Detective Matthews' investigation has created what we call a cascade event. We need to determine how far the damage has spread. Marcus flinched at the mention of his name. I want to help fix this. Tell me what you need. What we need, a new voice said from the doorway, is to understand exactly how foreign intelligence manipulated one of New York's finest detectives. FBI Special Agent Diana Foster entered, followed by 2 analysts carrying tablets and portable drives. She was tall, mid-40s, with the kind of sharp features that suggested she missed nothing. Her gaze settled on Marcus with laser intensity. Detective Matthews, I'm going to need you to walk me through every contact, every source, every piece of information you gathered during your investigation. Of course. Marcus straightened in his chair. Where do you want me to start? The beginning. When did you first become suspicious of your sister's activities? Marcus glanced at me apologetically. 3 years ago, after Dad's surgery. Clem missed it, said she was on assignment. But when I tried to verify her story through department channels, things didn't add up. Define didn't add up, Foster prompted, her fingers flying across her tablet. The unit she claimed to be with didn't exist in any database I could access. The base she said she was stationed at showed no record of her. I started thinking maybe she was having personal problems, making excuses to avoid family. He laughed bitterly. I thought I was helping. When did your personal concern become an official investigation? About 6 months ago. I ran her name through NCIC, just a routine check, but it triggered something. Within an hour, I had a call from someone claiming to be FBI saying they were already investigating her for potential fraud. Foster's expression sharpened. Did you verify their credentials? Of course. Badge numbers, callback numbers to the field office. It all checked out. Marcus pulled out a worn notebook. Agent Michael Harrison and Agent Sarah Chen. They said they'd been monitoring suspicious financial activity linked to military impersonation schemes. I need those badge numbers, Foster said urgently. One of her analysts immediately began typing. After a moment, he shook his head. No Agent Harrison or Chen in any FBI database. The badge numbers are from agents who retired over a decade ago. That's impossible, Marcus insisted. I called the field office directly. I spoke to supervisors. You called the numbers they gave you, Foster corrected, which routed to a very sophisticated voice-over IP system hosted on servers in Eastern Europe. You weren't talking to the FBI detective. You were talking to foreign intelligence officers who'd done their homework. The color drained from Marcus's face. Jennifer reached for his hand as the implications sank in. They played me from the beginning, he said quietly. They identified you as a vulnerability, Foster confirmed. A trained investigator with access to law enforcement databases and a personal connection to a high-value target. They fed you just enough truth mixed with lies to keep you digging. What kind of truth? I asked, though I suspected I already knew. Foster pulled up a classified file on her tablet. They knew about your unit's existence general. Not details, but enough to know that traditional searches would come up empty. They used that knowledge to convince Detective Matthews he was uncovering a conspiracy. The photographs, Marcus said suddenly. They provided some of the surveillance photos, said they were from their investigation, but they were taken by foreign intelligence assets who'd been tracking General Matthews for years. Foster finished. They used you to fill in the gaps in their intelligence. Every question you asked, every database you searched, gave them more information about how we hide our most sensitive operations. General Hawkins leaned forward. Show them the intercepts. Foster nodded, pulling up another file. These are communications we intercepted between Belgrade and Moscow discussing what they call Operation Thread Pull. The name is apt. They found a loose thread in Detective Matthews and pulled until the entire fabric started unraveling. She displayed a series of translated messages on the wall screen. My family read in growing horror as foreign agents discussed Marcus's progress, their excitement when he accessed certain databases, their strategies for feeding him information that would keep him investigating. My God, my father breathed. They were watching him the whole time. Worse, Foster corrected. They were guiding him. Every time he hit a dead end, they'd provide a new lead. Every time he started to doubt, they'd feed him just enough confirmation to keep going. Emma, who'd been quietly absorbing everything, suddenly spoke up. But why didn't they just investigate Aunt Clem themselves? Why use Uncle Marcus? It was a perceptive question from someone so young. Foster smiled grimly. Because legitimate law enforcement requests trigger different responses than foreign intelligence probes. When Detective Matthews searched military databases, it looked like standard interagency cooperation. When he filed requests for financial records, it appeared to be a routine fraud investigation. They used my credentials as camouflage, Marcus said, understanding dawning. Every query I made looked legitimate because it was legitimate. I was just asking the wrong questions for the wrong reasons. Exactly. And it worked beautifully until you tried to arrest your sister at a family gathering. Foster gestured to me. That wasn't part of their plan. They expected you to build a case slowly, maybe turn it over to federal authorities. The public confrontation forced everyone's hand. The attack on the house. Sarah interjected her legal mind, working through the implications. That was them trying to salvage the operation. Partially. I said, speaking from my own experience with foreign operations. But it was also punishment. They'd invested months in this operation, and Marcus's precipitous action ruined it. The attack was meant to eliminate witnesses and show others the price of failure. Others? Jennifer asked fearfully. You mean there are more operations like this? Foster and Hawkins exchanged a look. We've identified at least 7 similar operations in progress, Foster admitted. Family members of classified personnel being manipulated into compromising their relatives. Your case is the first to fully surface, which makes it valuable for understanding their methodology. So we're not just victims, Uncle Robert said slowly. We're evidence. You're the key to unraveling an entire network, Foster confirmed, which is why your protection is paramount. The people who orchestrated this won't simply give up because one operation failed. A knock on the door interrupted us. An aide entered, whispering urgently to General Hawkins. Her expression darkened. What is it? I asked. Team 7. They've made contact, but they're pinned down. Local security forces are closing in, and their extraction window is closing. I stood immediately. I need to get to the operations center. Clem, no. Marcus protested. You can't deploy now. You're compromised. Your family's at risk. My family is at risk because Team 7 is at risk. I cut him off. Those operatives were exposed because of actions taken against me. I won't abandon them. General Matthews is right, Hawkins said, but not for the reasons she thinks. She turned to the wall screen, pulling up a map of Eastern Europe. Team 7's position is here. The forces hunting them are the same ones who manipulated Detective Matthews. This is our chance to turn the tables. You want to use them as bait, I realized. I want to use the entire situation to our advantage, Hawkins corrected. The Foreign Intelligence Service has revealed their hand. They've shown us their methods, their capabilities, their reach. Now we can use that knowledge against them. How? Marcus asked. Foster smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. By feeding them exactly what they expect to see. General Matthews will lead a rescue operation for Team 7. It will appear to be a desperate attempt to save compromised assets. In reality, it will be a trap years in the making. You want to use me as bait, too, I said. I want to use all of us as bait, Hawkins corrected. The entire Matthews family has become a point of vulnerability, so we turn that vulnerability into a weapon. Absolutely not, my mother said firmly. I won't have my family used as pawns in some international chess game. Mom, I said gently, we're already pawns. The question is whether we want to be passive pieces or active players. What would it involve? My father asked Ever the tactician. Foster pulled up a detailed operational plan. Detective Matthews continues his investigation, but now under our control. He finds what we want the enemy to find. General Matthews leads her rescue mission, walking into what appears to be a trap. The family remains under protective custody, but visible enough to maintain the illusion of vulnerability. And Team 7, I asked. Gets extracted during the chaos, Hawkins confirmed, along with enough captured intelligence to map the enemy's entire network. The room fell silent as my family absorbed the proposal. They were being asked to go from victims to assets, from protected to protectors. It was a fundamental shift in their understanding of themselves and their place in the world I inhabited. I'll do it, Marcus said finally. This is my mess. Let me help clean it up. We'll all do it. Grandmother Dorothy spoke with quiet authority. This family has served in shadows before. We can do it again. One by one, the others nodded agreement. Even Emma, young as she was, straightened her shoulders with determination. Then God help us all, Foster muttered, because we're about to play a very dangerous game with very dangerous people. As plans began to form and roles were assigned, I caught Marcus's eye. My brother, who'd tried to destroy me out of misguided love, was now preparing to risk everything to save me. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Together, he asked quietly. Together, I confirmed. The war had come home, but home was preparing to strike back. And this time, we wouldn't be fighting alone. The operations center hummed with controlled chaos. Multiple screens displayed real-time intelligence feeds, satellite imagery, and communication intercepts. I stood at the central command station watching Team 7's position update every few seconds. They were running out of time and options. Hostiles closing from 3 directions, the tactical officer reported. Estimate 7 minutes until contact. I studied the terrain maps looking for options everyone else had missed. That's when Marcus appeared at my shoulder, his face drawn with exhaustion and determination. Clem, I need to tell you something, he said urgently. Before you deploy, before any of this goes further, there's more to why they targeted me. I turned to face him, noting the tremor in his hands. What do you mean? 6 months ago, I was investigating a money laundering operation, complex network international connections. I thought it was just standard organized crime, but... He pulled out a flash drive. I found connections to terrorist financing, specifically a cell that had made threats against law enforcement families. My blood ran cold. Marcus, tell me you reported this. I did, to the FBI. The real FBI this time. I verified independently. He handed me the drive, but I also kept digging on my own. I think that's when they noticed me, when I became a threat worth neutralizing. General Hawkins took the drive, immediately passing it to Foster's analysts. Within moments, data began populating our screens. Financial transfers, coded communications personnel files. Marcus had uncovered a significant operation. This is extensive, Foster breathed. Detective Matthews, do you understand what you found? I thought I did, Marcus replied. But now? Clem, 3 weeks before I started investigating you, I received a threat. Anonymous message saying my family would pay for my interference. I thought it was standard intimidation. You never told me, Jennifer said from behind us. She'd been brought to the operations center with the rest of the family for security reasons. Marcus, you never said we were in danger. I didn't want to worry you. I increased security, varied our routes, took precautions. He looked at me with haunted eyes. But when the fake FBI agents approached me about you, they knew about the threats. Said investigating you was a way to protect our family, that you might be connected to the people threatening us. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. They turned your protective instincts against us, made you think investigating me would keep your family safe. It gets worse, Marcus continued. 3 days ago, I found something in the evidence, an intercept mentioning Operation Prometheus and a plan to eliminate the unit's commander. I thought it meant you were in danger from your own people. That's why I moved so fast with the arrest. I thought I was saving you." "You were," I said quietly. "Just not from the threat you imagined." On the main screen, Team 7's position updated again. They'd found temporary cover in an abandoned industrial complex, but enemy forces were converging. We had minutes to act. "General Matthews," Hawkins said formally, "in light of this intelligence, I'm modifying your operational parameters. This isn't just a rescue mission anymore. This is a counter-strike." She pulled up a new tactical display. "The cell your brother uncovered. They're the same group that's hunting Team 7. The terrorist financing the threats against law enforcement, the operation against you. It's all connected. One organization with multiple tentacles." "How deep does this go?" my father asked. He'd been quietly absorbing information, but I could see his military mind working through implications. "Deep enough that we've been tracking them for 3 years without fully understanding their structure," Foster admitted. "Until now. Detective Matthews' investigation, combined with the intelligence from their operation against him, has given us the roadmap we needed." Emma raised her hand tentatively like she was in school. I might have something useful, too." Everyone turned to look at the teenager. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "When Uncle Marcus arrested Aunt Clem, I was recording, but I kept recording after even during the attack." She swiped through her phone. "I caught something weird. One of the attackers was speaking English but with specific phrases, military stuff. I thought it sounded familiar." She played the audio. Through the gunfire and chaos, a voice could be heard giving orders. My blood froze as I recognized not just the language, but the specific terminology. "That's American military protocol," I said. "Special Operations Communication Standards." "Not just any special operations," my father added grimly. "That's Delta Force terminology from the early 2000s. I remember it from joint operations in Afghanistan." Foster's team immediately began analyzing the audio. Voice print analysis coming up. Got it. Samuel Morrison, former Delta operator discharged in 2005 for misconduct, suspected of selling services to highest bidder since 2008. "He knows our tactics," I said. "Our procedures, our weaknesses. That's how they've stayed ahead of us." "And now he's hunting Team 7 with that knowledge," Hawkins added. "But he doesn't know we know. That's our advantage." A urgent alert flashed on the screens. Team 7's commander, Lieutenant Colonel Rachel Stone, appeared via encrypted satellite link. Behind her, we could see her team preparing defensive positions. "Prometheus." "Actual, this is 7-1, she reported. "We have enemy forces on 3 sides, estimate battalion strength. We've identified at least 1 American-trained operator among them. Request immediate extraction or support." 7-1, this is Prometheus Actual, I responded. "Understand your situation. Are you aware of Silver Bear's presence?" Silver Bear was Morrison's designation in our databases. Stone's eyes widened slightly. "Confirm Silver Bear. That explains their tactics. Ma'am, we can't hold this position against someone who knows our playbook." "You won't have to me," I decided. 7-1, prepare for emergency protocol Thunderstrike. Authentication Zulu 99. "Thunderstrike?" Hawkins questioned. "That's not in the operational plan." "It is now," I said firmly. Then to my family, "I need you all to understand something. What I'm about to do breaks every rule of engagement we have, but those rules assume our enemies don't know our tactics. Morrison's presence changes everything." "What's Thunderstrike?" Marcus asked. "It's a theoretical protocol," my father answered, surprising me. "Developed after Vietnam for situations where enemy forces had inside knowledge of American tactics. Never officially approved because it requires the commander to act as live bait while simultaneously coordinating a counter-ambush." I finished. "It's considered a suicide protocol." "Absolutely not," my mother said. "Clementine, there has to be another way." "There is," I admitted. "We could let Team 7 fight their way out. Probable casualties 60 to 80%. We could send in a conventional rescue force. probable casualties 40%, plus the political fallout of a military operation on foreign soil. Or we implement Thunderstrike. What are the casualties for Thunderstrike? Jennifer asked quietly. I met her eyes. For Team 7-0, if executed correctly. For the commanding officer implementing it. Survival rate in simulations is approximately 15%. 15%, Marcus repeated. Clem, those aren't odds. That's a death sentence. No, I corrected. It's a calculated risk, and it's my risk to take. Like hell, Marcus stood. You want to commit suicide to clean up my mess? Not happening. This isn't about your investigation anymore, I said firmly. This is about 7 American operators trapped behind enemy lines because our secrets were compromised. This is about a terrorist cell that's threatened innocent families. This is about ending a threat that's been growing for years. It's about family, Grandmother Dorothy said quietly. Isn't it you're trying to protect all of us by removing yourself from the equation? I couldn't deny it. With me gone, there would be no reason to target the Matthews family. Team 7 would be safe. The terrorist cell would lose their primary target. It was tactically sound. Tactically sound and emotionally stupid, Emma said, reading my expression. Aunt Clem, you just got your family back. You can't leave us now. Sometimes service requires... Stop, my father commanded. Clementine, I've heard that speech. I've given that speech. And you know what I learned after 40 years in the military? The best commanders don't die for their people. They live for them. They find another way. Then help me find one, I challenged. Because in 5 minutes, Team 7 runs out of cover and options. The room erupted in rapid-fire planning. Foster's analysts worked with Hawkins' tactical team. My father and Uncle Robert, drawing on decades of military experience, offered suggestions. Even Sarah contributed her legal mind-finding loopholes in international law that might provide cover. But it was Marcus who provided the breakthrough. Morrison thinks he knows our tactics, he said suddenly. But he's been out for almost 20 years. What's changed since then? Technology, primarily, Hawkins answered. Drone capabilities, cyber warfare, satellite surveillance. Exactly, Marcus interrupted. He knows the old playbook. So what if we use the new one? What if, instead of Thunderstrike, we give him what he expects while hitting him with what he doesn't? I saw where he was going. A false Thunderstrike. Make him think we're following the suicide protocol while actually implementing something completely different. 7-1. This is Prometheus Actual. I called to Stone. New plan. Implement false Thunderstrike with Phoenix variant. Repeat Phoenix variant. Stone's expression shifted from resignation to hope. Phoenix variant confirmed. That's never been tested in actual combat. First time for everything, I replied. You have your orders. Roger that, 7-1 out. I turned to my family. Phoenix variant requires real-time intelligence support and perfect coordination. I can't do it alone. You won't have to, Foster said. We'll provide the intelligence feeds. I'll coordinate communications, my father offered. Financial tracking and analysis, Uncle Robert added. One by one, my family and the assembled teams volunteered for roles. Even Emma was given a task, monitoring social media for any leaks or unexpected complications. This is insane, Marcus said, but he was already pulling up databases on his laptop. We're turning a family reunion into a military operation. No, I corrected. We're turning a military operation into a family business. And the Matthews family business has always been protecting America, whether anyone knows it or not. As the pieces fell into place and the operation began, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 15 years of service. The power of not facing the darkness alone. My family, broken by secrets and lies, had reformed into something stronger. We were no longer isolated individuals keeping painful secrets. We were a unit united by purpose and love. Prometheus Actual. Stone's voice crackled over comms. Phoenix is rising. God help anyone in our way. Roger that 7-1. Prometheus flies with you. The battle was about to begin. But this time I wouldn't be fighting alone. The Matthews family was at war, and heaven help anyone who stood against us. The main screen lit up with feeds from a dozen different sources: satellite imagery, drone footage, intercepted communications. I watched my brother's face as the full scope of what we were attempting became clear. His detective's mind was processing information at incredible speed, but it was the emotional weight that threatened to break him. Incoming transmission from Phoenix 1, the communications officer announced. The code name belonged to a Predator drone we'd scrambled from a base that didn't officially exist. Morrison's taking the bait, Foster reported, highlighting movement patterns on the tactical display. He's positioning his forces exactly where the old Thunderstrike protocol says they should expect you. Except you won't be there, Marcus said quietly. He turned to me and I saw years of pain in his eyes. This whole time, every mission you've run, every operation, you've been doing this, playing chess with people's lives, including your own. Not chess, I corrected. Chess has rules. This is jazz, improvisation built on a foundation of training and trust. Trust, he repeated bitterly, something I destroyed. Marcus, stop. I grabbed his shoulders. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You protected your family the only way you knew how. Ma'am, the tactical officer interrupted. We have visual confirmation. Morrison's committing his reserves to the false position. On screen, thermal imagery showed figures moving through the abandoned industrial complex. They were good, maintaining spacing, covering angles, moving with the precision of trained operators. But they were moving toward an illusion. Now we show them something else, I said. Execute Phase 2. Suddenly, the screens filled with new activity. What Morrison didn't know was that Team 7 had been reinforced hours ago by assets we'd pre-positioned for a different operation. His battalion-strength force was about to discover they were outnumbered 3-1. Contact front. Stone's voice crackled over comms. Engaging hostile forces. Silver Bear confirmed in the open. The firefight erupted on multiple feeds, but something else was happening. Something Marcus noticed first. Clem, he said urgently. Bottom left screen, that building. I looked and felt my heart skip. 3 figures were moving away from the main engagement, heading toward a structure our intelligence had marked as empty. But their movement patterns... That's an assault team, my father identified. They're not running from the fight. They're running to something. Analysts, I need immediate workup on that building, I ordered. What did we miss? The answer came within seconds, and it was worse than I'd imagined. MAM archived records show that building housed a chemical plant, shut down in 2008, but the storage tanks were never properly emptied. Morrison's not just fighting back, I realized. He's going scorched earth. If he can't win, he'll create an environmental disaster that forces international intervention. Can Team 7 intercept? Hawkins asked. I ran the calculations. Negative. They're fully engaged with the main force. So we're going to lose, Marcus said flatly. All this and he still wins. No, I said firmly. We adapt. Phoenix was always about using resources Morrison doesn't expect. I turned to the operations staff. I need immediate connect to Sabre 6. Sabre 6. Hawkins frowned. That's a NATO designation. Specifically Polish Special Forces. They've been tracking the same chemical threat for months. I waited for the connection to establish. Morrison thinks he's operating in a vacuum. He's wrong. The encrypted line crackled to life. Sabre 6 actual. Sabre 6, this is Prometheus actual. Authentication Tango 77. We have a mutual problem developing at grid reference follows. There was a pause. Prometheus, we show no scheduled operations in our sector. Because this isn't scheduled, Silver Bear is attempting to weaponize the old Chemtech facility. I believe you have assets closer than mine. Another pause, longer this time. Prometheus confirming Silver Bear involvement. Confirmed with visual identification. He's your ghost too, Saber 6. Copy that. We've wanted Morrison for 3 years. Saber 6 is moving to intercept. ETA 4 minutes. Marcus stared at me. You just called in foreign special forces. Can you do that? I just did. I turned back to the main screen. Sometimes the best resource is the one your enemy discounts. Morrison's prepared for American tactics, American forces. He's not prepared for our allies. The situation board updated rapidly. Team 7 continued their engagement while Polish operators moved like ghosts toward the chemical facility. But something else was happening. Something the tactical computers were just beginning to flag. Ma'am, Foster called out, we're detecting unusual communication patterns. Morrison's force is fragmenting. I studied the data. She was right. Unit cohesion was breaking down among the mercenary forces. Some were continuing the assault, others were pulling back, and a third group seemed to be turning on their own leadership. They know about the chemicals, my father said. Morrison didn't tell his own people they were potentially on a suicide mission. Of course not, I agreed. Mercenaries fight for money, not causes. The moment they realize they're expendable, loyalty evaporates. 7-1 Prometheus, actual. I called. Enemy forces are fragmenting. Press the advantage, but watch for desperate moves. Copy Prometheus. We're seeing surrenders on the east flank. How do you want us to handle standard protocols, secure and process, priority on anyone with intelligence value? Marcus was studying the feeds intently. Suddenly, he pointed at one screen. There, Morrison's moving. Looks like... Is he heading for the chemical plant himself? He was right. Thermal imaging showed a single figure breaking from the command element, moving with desperate purpose toward the facility. He's going to trigger it manually, I realized. Saber 6 Prometheus. Priority target moving to your position. Silver Bear is attempting direct action at chemical site. Understood, Prometheus. We have visual. Engaging. What followed was brief but decisive. Morrison, for all his training and experience, was one man against a full special operations team. The Polish operators took him down with clinical precision, non-lethal as requested. We needed him alive for intelligence purposes. Target secured. Saber 6 reported. Chemical threat contained. Prometheus, your reputation precedes you. Perhaps we can discuss future cooperation. Perhaps we can Saber 6, Prometheus out. The main engagement was winding down. With Morrison captured and their leadership fractured, the mercenary forces surrendered or fled. Team 7 emerged battered but intact. 0 casualties just as planned. But it was the secondary screens that drew my attention. Throughout the operation, our analysts had been processing the intelligence Marcus had gathered during his investigation. Cross-referencing it with what we were learning from the captured mercenaries was painting a disturbing picture. Clem, Foster said quietly, you need to see this. She pulled up a connection diagram on the main screen. At the center was Morrison, but the web extended far beyond him. Financial institutions, shipping companies, government officials in a dozen countries. The terrorist financing network Marcus had stumbled upon was vast. This is why they came after you, Foster explained to Marcus. You didn't just find a money laundering operation. You found one of the primary funding mechanisms for international terrorism. They tried to neutralize you by turning you against your sister, but instead, I brought you together, Marcus finished. And together you've unraveled their entire network. We've unraveled it, I corrected. This was a team effort. Military, law enforcement, intelligence agencies, and... I looked around the room at my family, civilian assets with the courage to stand in the line of fire. Emma, who'd been monitoring social media, suddenly gasped. Aunt Clem, we might have a problem. Someone's uploading video of the operation. It's already got 10,000 views and climbing. We crowded around her phone. The video was shaky, clearly taken from a distance, but it showed American military assets engaged in combat operations on foreign soil. The comments were already filling with speculation and accusations. Can we contain it? Hawkins asked Foster. Working on it, but… Foster shook her head. It's spreading too fast. We need a different approach. What if we don't contain it? Sarah suggested. Everyone turned to look at her. I mean, what if we control the narrative instead? Release our own version that tells the story we want told? A limited disclosure, my father mused. Admit to a joint counter-terrorism operation without revealing the classified details. It could work, Foster agreed. Polish government would likely support us. They get credit for stopping a chemical attack. We frame it as international cooperation against terrorism. And my role, Marcus asked. The investigation that started all this. Heroic detective uncovers terrorist plot, I suggested. Risks everything to protect his family and country. It's not even a lie, just a careful arrangement of the truth. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. Heroic, right. I nearly got you killed, compromised national security, and played right into enemy hands. And then you helped stop them, I reminded him. Marcus' heroism isn't about being perfect. It's about recognizing mistakes and working to fix them. You did that today. Prometheus Actual. Stone's voice interrupted. 7-1 and all elements secured. Ready for extraction. And ma'am, thank you. That Phoenix variant was brilliant. Thank the team that made it possible 7-1, including the newest members. I gestured to my family. Prometheus out. As extraction operations began and the immediate crisis passed, I found Marcus standing alone by the observation window. The underground facility had no real windows, of course. This was a high-definition screen showing a live feed of Washington, D.C. at sunset. It's fake, he said as I joined him, like everything else in your world. Illusions within illusions. The view is fake, I agreed. But what we did today, that was real. The lives we saved, the threats we stopped. That matters. I almost destroyed everything, he said quietly. My own sister, my family, national security. All because I couldn't accept that there were things I didn't know. No, I corrected. All because you loved your family and wanted to protect them. The methods were wrong, but the motivation. That's what made it possible to turn this around. He turned to face me. How do you do it, Clem? Live with the secrets, the lies, the constant danger. The same way you live with being a cop in New York, I said. One day at a time, focusing on the good we can do rather than the cost of doing it. And now, I smiled. Now I don't have to do it alone. None of us do. Jennifer appeared in the doorway. They're ready for the debrief. The Secretary of Defense wants to personally thank everyone involved. As we walked back to join our family, Marcus caught my arm. Clem, that 15% survival rate for Thunderstrike. You were really ready to take those odds. To protect my family and my team, yes. Without hesitation. The only hesitation was knowing what it would do to all of you. Dying for your country is easy, Marcus. Living for it, carrying the weight of necessary secrets and impossible choices, that's the hard part. Then let us help carry it, he said firmly. No more secrets between us. No more facing the darkness alone. No more secrets. I agreed, though. We both knew that wasn't entirely true. There would always be classifications, always be operations I couldn't discuss. But the fundamental truth, that we were family, that we stood together against whatever threatened us, that would never be secret again. As we entered the conference room where the Secretary of Defense waited, I looked around at my assembled family. They'd been tested in ways they'd never imagined face threats they'd never known existed and emerged stronger for it. The Matthews family had gone to war and won. But more importantly, we'd found our way back to each other, and that more than any operational success was the victory that mattered most. The debriefing with the Secretary of Defense had concluded an hour ago, but the weight of what came next pressed down on me like a physical force. In the Secure Facilities conference room, my family waited as General Hawkins and FBI Special Agent Foster prepared for what they called a disposition hearing. a polite term for deciding Marcus's fate. The legal situation is complex. Foster began spreading files across the table. Detective Matthews technically violated the Espionage Act. His unauthorized investigation compromised classified operations and resulted in the exposure of clandestine assets. He was manipulated, Jennifer protested, gripping Marcus's hand. Foreign agents deliberately— The law doesn't care about manipulation, Foster interrupted gently. Intent matters, but actions have consequences. The question is what those consequences should be. Marcus sat rigidly in his chair, still wearing the same clothes from the disastrous dinner at Grandmother Dorothy's. The confident detective who'd arrested me mere hours ago had been replaced by a man facing the potential destruction of everything he'd built. The maximum penalty is life in prison, Foster continued. The minimum given the circumstances would be loss of his detective shield and a federal conviction that would prevent him from ever working in law enforcement again. That's his entire life, my mother whispered. His career, his identity. Which is why we're here, General Hawkins interjected. General Matthews has proposed an alternative. All eyes turned to me. I'd spent the last hour in heated negotiations with officials who wanted to make an example of Marcus to show that family connections didn't override security breaches. But I'd pulled in every favor, every marker I'd earned in 15 years of service. Marcus can't be prosecuted without revealing classified information in court, I began. The government doesn't want a public trial any more than we do, so I've proposed a different form of accountability. I slid a document across to Marcus. His eyes widened as he read. A lifetime binding security agreement, I explained. You become a classified asset yourself. Your investigation, your connections, your mistake, all of it becomes part of a controlled operation. Controlled by whom? Sarah asked, her legal mind immediately grasping the implications. By me, I said simply. Marcus would officially transfer to a federal task force under my command. His expertise in financial crimes combined with his newfound understanding of our operations makes him uniquely valuable for tracking terrorist financing. You're offering me a job, Marcus asked incredulously. After what I did, I'm offering you a chance to make it right, I corrected. The network you uncovered still exists. Morrison was just one tentacle. You've proven you can find these connections. Imagine what you could do with proper resources and oversight. This is insane. Marcus stood pacing the small room. I tried to destroy you. I had you arrested, humiliated, nearly killed. And you want to trust me with classified operations? I want to trust my brother, I said quietly. The one who spent 6 months trying to protect his family from a threat he didn't understand. The one who immediately volunteered to help fix his mistake. The one who helped save Team 7 tonight. But the breach, Agent Foster reminded us, 3 operatives were compromised. They could have been killed because of his actions. Ma'am, if I may. We turned to see Lieutenant Colonel Stone standing in the doorway, still in her tactical gear from the operation. Behind her stood the other members of Team 7. Colonel Stone, Hawkins said formally, this is a closed hearing. With respect, General, we believe we have standing in this matter. Stone entered her team following. We're the operatives who were compromised. We're the ones who nearly died. Shouldn't our opinion matter? Hawkins considered, then nodded. Proceed. Stone faced Marcus directly. Detective Matthews, your investigation exposed our positions and nearly cost us our lives. By every measure, we should despise you. Marcus flinched but held her gaze. But Stone continued, your actions also exposed Morrison's network. Because of you, we identified a mole who's been selling American secrets for 20 years. Because of your intelligence, we prevented a chemical attack that would have killed thousands. And because of your family's courage under fire, we all made it home. She looked at her team, then back at Marcus. We've discussed it. If General Matthews is willing to vouch for you, Team 7 supports the alternative arrangement. You're forgiving me? Marcus asked, his voice barely audible. We're acknowledging complexity, Stone corrected. In our world, good people sometimes do bad things for good reasons. What matters is what happens next. The door opened again and Captain Morrison entered, Marcus's police captain, not the captured mercenary. He looked haggard, having spent hours in his own debriefings about how he'd missed the warning signs. "Captain," Marcus straightened. "I'm sorry. I've disgraced the badge, the department." "You've made a serious error in judgment," Morrison agreed. "But you've also uncovered a terrorist network that NYPD has been hunting for 3 years without success. The commissioner is prepared to support whatever arrangement federal authorities deem appropriate." "Politics," Uncle Robert muttered. "They want the win more than they want justice." "No," I disagreed. "They want results more than they want revenge. There's a difference." "What about us?" Emma asked suddenly. "The rest of the family. Are we just supposed to go back to normal after this?" It was the question nobody wanted to ask, but everyone was thinking. How did you return to ordinary life after witnessing extraordinary events? "There is no normal anymore," Hawkins said honestly. "You've been exposed to classified information and identified by foreign intelligence services. That can't be undone. Which is why the protection will be permanent," Foster added. "Security details hardened homes, regular threat assessments. You'll live relatively normal lives, but with safeguards most people never need." "And if we want to do more?" my father asked. "If we want to help?" I saw Hawkins and Foster exchange glances. This was unexpected. Family members usually wanted to distance themselves from the intelligence world, not dive deeper. "Dad, you're 74, I said gently. "Your service days are behind you." "My uniform days are behind me," he corrected. "But my mind still works, and I've spent the evening watching analysts half my age miss connections I spotted immediately. Experience matters." "Mine too," Uncle Robert added. 40 years in financial services. You think I can't help track terrorist money?" "I speak 4 languages and have a law degree," Sarah offered. "International law specifically." One by one, my family members listed their skills, their willingness to contribute. Even grandmother Dorothy at 85 pointed out her lifetime of connections in Washington society, connections that could provide intelligence no satellite could gather. "You're talking about creating a family intelligence unit," Foster said slowly. "That's unprecedented." "Everything about this situation is unprecedented," I pointed out. "We've already proven we can work together effectively. Why waste that capability?" "Because it's dangerous," Hawkins said flatly. "Because it puts civilian lives at risk. Because it violates every principle of operational security." With respect, General Marcus spoke up. "Those principles have already been violated. We're at risk whether we participate or not. At least this way we're at risk with purpose." The room fell silent as the officials considered. I could see them weighing options, calculating risks, measuring benefits against potential disasters. Finally, Hawkins spoke. "If we do this, and I'm not saying we will, there would be strict conditions. Training requirements, security protocols, limited operational involvement. You wouldn't be field agents. You'd be analytical support at most. Analytical support that helped save 7 operators today," my father reminded her. "A fair point," Hawkins conceded. She turned to Foster. "Your assessment?" Foster was quiet for a long moment. "The Matthews family has already demonstrated capability under pressure. They've maintained operational security even in extreme circumstances. And frankly," she smiled slightly, "their diverse skill sets could fill gaps in our current capabilities." "Then we're actually considering this," Marcus asked. "Turning my family into spies because of my mistakes?" "No," I said firmly. "We're considering giving our family the tools to protect themselves and serve their country, just like generations of Matthews before us." "The family business," Grandmother Dorothy said with satisfaction, "though it's certainly more exciting than your grandfather's cover story of being an insurance adjuster." That broke the tension slightly. Even Hawkins cracked a smile. "This would require extensive documentation," Foster warned. Legal frameworks that don't currently exist, congressional oversight would need to be informed at least at the highest levels. I can help with that, Sarah volunteered. Creating new legal frameworks is literally what I do. And the security requirements would be extreme, Hawkins added. Your homes would need to be fortified, communications monitored, travel restricted. It's not a small commitment. Neither is having your dining room shot up by foreign operatives, Aunt Patricia said dryly. I'd rather have protection and purpose than be a sitting duck. What about me? Marcus asked quietly. Everyone's talking about the family's future, but I'm still facing federal charges. Even if I accept this deal work under Clementine's command, help track terrorist financing, does that really balance the scales? No, I said honestly. Nothing balances those scales. You put lives at risk. The fact that it worked out doesn't erase that. But justice isn't just about punishment. It's about making things right, and you have a unique opportunity to do that. Under your command, he repeated. My little sister would be my boss. Your little sister outranks most of the people in this building, Hawkins said bluntly. This isn't about family dynamics. It's about operational efficiency. I know. Marcus met my eyes. And that's what makes it perfect justice. I tried to tear you down because I couldn't accept you'd surpassed me. Now I'd have to face that reality every day. Or you could see it as an opportunity to learn, I suggested, to understand the world I've been living in, to be part of something larger than yourself. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he signed the security agreement with a steady hand. When do I start? Tomorrow, Foster said, assuming General Hawkins approves the overall proposal. Hawkins looked around the room at my family, battered, exhausted, but unbroken. I must be insane, she muttered. Then louder, I'll take it to the secretary. No promises, but... She smiled slightly. The Matthews family has already proven more effective than some units I could name. As the meeting broke up and arrangements were made for temporary housing at the facility, Marcus pulled me aside. Clem, I need you to know something. What I said during the arrest about you being a fraud playing soldier, you were doing your job with the information you had, I interrupted. No, I was being a jealous, petty older brother who couldn't stand that his sister had become something extraordinary. His voice broke. I almost got you killed because of my pride. But you didn't, I said firmly. And now you have a chance to be part of something extraordinary yourself. We both do. Together. He hugged me, then the first real embrace we'd shared in 3 years. No more secrets. No more secrets between us, I promised, though we'll be keeping plenty from the rest of the world. As I looked around at my family, planning, organizing, already adapting to their new reality, I realized something had fundamentally changed. The isolation I'd carried for 15 years was gone. The Matthews family was no longer just my cover story or my vulnerability. They were my strength, my team, my home base in a war that would never truly end, but now at least I wouldn't fight alone. The war had come home, but home had become an operational asset. And that perhaps was the most unexpected victory of all. The secure facility's medical wing buzzed with activity as doctors checked each family member for injuries from the attack. I sat on an examination table watching through the observation window as Marcus underwent his own evaluation in the adjacent room. The physical wounds were minimal, cuts from flying glass bruises from taking cover. The psychological impact would take longer to assess. General Matthews. A young Air Force doctor appeared with a tablet. Your scans are clear. The old injuries are holding up well considering the evening's activities. I nodded, accustomed to medical professionals dancing around the specifics of wounds they weren't cleared to know the origins of. Through the window, I saw the door to the waiting area open. What happened next stopped every conversation in the medical wing. They entered in formation without planning it that way. 6 operators in tactical gear moving with the synchronized precision that came from years of shared survival. Team 7 had returned from their debriefing, but they weren't alone. Behind them came others, members of units I'd led over the years, men and women who'd somehow learned about tonight's events and traveled through the night to be here. Lieutenant Colonel Stone led them, her usually stoic face, showing emotion I'd rarely seen. General permission to address the situation. "Granted," I said, sliding off the examination table. What followed was something I'd never experienced in 15 years of command. One by one, operators I'd served with stepped forward to speak, not to me, but to Marcus, who stood frozen in the doorway of his examination room. Master Sergeant David Chen went first. "Detective Matthews, you don't know me. 3 years ago, your sister carried me 4 miles through hostile territory after an IED took my legs. She could have left me, should have by tactical doctrine, but General Matthews doesn't leave people behind." He shifted on his prosthetic legs. "Tonight, I heard what happened. Heard you'd been investigating her, that your actions compromised operations. My first instinct was anger, but then I heard the rest. How you helped save Team 7, how you're willing to make it right. That takes courage." Captain Maria Rodriguez stepped forward next. "I was captured in Syria, 14 days in a hole that officially didn't exist. Know who came for me, your sister? Led an operation that shouldn't have been possible to get me out. She took bullets meant for me." Rodriguez pulled up her sleeve, revealing surgical scars. Those bullets were laced with toxins. The treatment nearly killed her. She never told anyone, just reported for duty as soon as she could stand. One after another, they shared their stories. Operations that couldn't be acknowledged. Sacrifices that would never be public moments when Clementine Matthews had been the difference between coming home and becoming a star on a memorial wall. Marcus sank into a chair as the weight of testimony accumulated. Jennifer stood beside him, tears streaming down her face as she finally understood who I really was. Not through classified files or family revelations, but through the words of those who'd bled beside me. "We're not here to judge you," Stone said finally. "We're here because General Matthews changed all our lives. She gave us purpose, brought us home, made us better than we thought we could be. If she says you deserve a second chance, that's good enough for us." An older operator, Chief Warrant Officer James Thompson, stepped forward. He was one of my first team members, a grizzled veteran who'd seen too much. "I've served under a lot of commanders," he said. "Most see operators as assets, resources to be deployed. Your sister sees us as people. She knows our spouses' names, our kids' birthdays, our fears and dreams. That's why we'd follow her to hell and back, and have more than once." "But I betrayed her," Marcus said, his voice hoarse. "I exposed operations, put you all at risk." "You made a mistake," Thompson interrupted. "Know how many mistakes I've made in 30 years of operations. The difference is mine usually just got me shot at. Yours had bigger consequences, but they also had bigger results. Morrison's network is done because of what you uncovered." A young operator I didn't recognize raised her hand tentatively. "Ma'am, I'm Sergeant First Class Lisa Park Team 9. I wasn't going to speak, but..." She turned to Marcus. "My brother's a cop in Chicago. If he thought I was in danger, thought someone was lying to our family, he'd do exactly what you did. Family protects family. Sometimes that instinct goes wrong, but it comes from love." "Love that nearly got people killed," Marcus muttered. "Love that's been weaponized against better men than you," an older voice said from the doorway. We all turned to see General Patricia Hawkins entering with someone I hadn't expected. Retired General Samuel Morrison, former commander of JSOC, and my mentor for many years. At 78, he moved carefully, but his mind was sharp as ever. "Sir," I said, snapping to attention, despite being in civilian clothes. Around the room, operators did the same. "As you were," Morrison said, waving us down. "Patricia called me about this situation. Couldn't believe it until I reviewed the files myself. Detective Matthews, you stumbled into one of the most sophisticated intelligence operations I've seen in 40 years of service. He moved closer to Marcus, studying him with eyes that had assessed thousands of operators. You know what impresses me? Not that you were fooled. Professionals with decades of experience have fallen for less sophisticated schemes. What impresses me is that once you realized your error, you immediately worked to correct it. No excuses, no deflection, just mission focus. I focused on the wrong mission, Marcus said bitterly. Did you? Morrison challenged. Your mission was to protect your family from a perceived threat. The threat was real. You just misidentified its source. In the intelligence world, we call that faulty analysis based on deliberately corrupted data. It's not a character flaw, it's an occupational hazard. Emma, who'd been silent throughout the testimonies, suddenly spoke up. Why are you all being so nice to him? He hurt Aunt Clem. He could have gotten her killed. It was my father who answered. Because, sweetheart, in this world, the world your aunt inhabits, forgiveness isn't just kindness. It's tactical necessity. Teams can't function if they hold on to grievances. Operations fail when trust breaks down. They're not being nice, they're being professional. And because, I added, they understand something Marcus is still learning. In our world, the mission comes first, but the people accomplishing the mission matter most. Marcus protected his people the only way he knew how. That instinct properly channeled is exactly what we need. You really want me on your team? Marcus asked, looking at the assembled operators. After everything— Want is a strong word, Chief Thompson said with dark humor, but the general vouches for you and that's enough. Plus, he grinned slightly, having a financial crimes expert who understands our operations. That's a capability we've been lacking. The question, General Morrison said, is whether you can handle the weight. These people, he gestured at the operators, carry secrets that would break most civilians. They make decisions that affect thousands of lives, often with incomplete information and impossible timeframes. Can you do that? I don't know, Marcus admitted, but I know I have to try. I owe Clem that much. You owe her nothing, I said firmly. This isn't about debt or obligation. It's about capability and choice. You have skills we need and the willingness to apply them. That's what matters. Sergeant Park raised her hand again. Ma'am, if he's joining us even in an analytical capacity, he should hear this. She looked at her teammates who nodded. We call ourselves the Ghost Family, not because of our classified status, but because we're family that most of us can't acknowledge to our blood relatives. When you join, you're not just taking a job, you're joining a family that will have your back forever, but will also hold you to standards most people can't imagine. The kind of standards where a 15% survival rate is acceptable, Marcus asked. The kind where we make those odds irrelevant through preparation teamwork and sheer stubborn refusal to fail, Stone corrected. Your sister was ready to implement Thunderstrike, not because she has a death wish, but because she calculated it gave Team 7 the best chance of survival. That's the standard. Mission first people always self last. I've been putting self first my whole life, Marcus said quietly. Then it's time to learn a new way, General Morrison said. Patricia tells me you've agreed to the security arrangement to work under your sister's command. I'm here to make that official. He pulled out a set of documents. Provisional security clearance effective immediately. You'll undergo full background investigation and polygraph examination, but given the circumstances, we're expediting the process. Why? Jennifer asked. Why rush this? Because the intelligence Marcus gathered is time-sensitive, Hawkins explained. Morrison's network knows we have him. They're already moving assets, closing accounts, burning safe houses. Every hour we delay is an hour they have to regroup. And because, I added, Marcus has already proven he can find connections others miss. His investigation, misguided as it was uncovered, links our best analysts hadn't seen. We need that perspective. When you put it like that, Uncle Robert said from the doorway where the rest of the family had gathered, We all have perspectives you might need, different backgrounds, different expertise, different ways of seeing the world. General Morrison studied my assembled family. You're serious about this family unit concept? Dead serious, my father answered. We've been attacked, manipulated, and nearly killed because of our connection to Clementine. We can either be victims or assets. I know which I choose. It's unprecedented, Morrison mused. But then so is having a general officer's family exposed to this degree. Patricia, what's your assessment? Hawkins looked at each family member carefully. They maintained operational security under extreme stress. They contributed to mission success despite having no training or preparation. And they're already targets, whether we formalize their involvement or not. Then let's formalize it, Morrison decided. The Matthews Family Intelligence Support Unit, civilian augmentation for specialized analysis. We'll need new protocols, new training programs, new security measures. I can help with the training, Stone offered. Basic operational security threat assessment communication protocols. Nothing that would put them in the field, but enough to keep them safe and useful. Other operators began volunteering. Expertise in cybersecurity, financial analysis, language services. In minutes, an improvised training program was being outlined with my family as the first students. This is insane, Marcus said, but he was almost smiling. Yesterday, I was trying to arrest my sister for fraud. Today, I'm joining a classified intelligence unit staffed by my own family. Life comes at you fast in our world, Thompson said. Best to keep up or get run over. Emma raised her hand like she was in school. Do I get training too, or am I too young? You're never too young to learn operational security, I said, especially given that you've already demonstrated good instincts by recording tonight's events. About that, Foster said, entering with her ever-present tablet. We've managed to contain the social media spread, but young Emma here captured something interesting. She pulled up the video on a wall screen. Watch the figure in the background during the attack, upper left corner. We all leaned in. There, barely visible in the chaos, was someone who shouldn't have been there. A figure in police uniform, but not one of Marcus's backup units. Pattern recognition algorithm identifies him as Detective Ray Hutchinson, Foster announced, Marcus's partner, who supposedly left before the attack began. Marcus went rigid. Ray was outside. He said he was calling for additional units. He was calling someone, Foster agreed, but not dispatch. Phone records show an international number. He was reporting your arrest of General Matthews in real time to the same network that launched the attack. The room erupted in shocked voices. Marcus looked physically ill. Ray's been my partner for 3 years. He's been to my house, knows my family. Another thread to pull, I said grimly. Another part of Morrison's network we didn't know about. Which is why we need you operational immediately, Hawkins told Marcus. You know Hutchinson better than anyone. You can help us unravel how deep his involvement goes. From interrogating my sister to interrogating my partner, Marcus said hollowly. How's that for irony? It's not irony, General Morrison corrected. It's redemption. You have a chance to use the skills that almost destroyed your family to protect it instead. The question is, will you take it? Marcus looked around the room, at the operators who'd shared their stories at our family, ready to stand beside him at me. His older brother, who'd tried to protect me the wrong way, now had a chance to do it right. I'll take it, he said firmly. All of it. The training, the responsibility, the weight of secrets. I'll carry it. We'll carry it together, Jennifer corrected, taking his hand. That's what family does. As plans formed around us, training schedules, security protocols, operational planning, I felt something I hadn't expected. Pride. Not in my own service or accomplishments, but in my family's courage. They'd been thrust into a world of shadows and chose to bring their own light to it. General Matthews, one of the younger operators, approached hesitantly. Ma'am, would it be appropriate to... Well, we brought something. He produced a challenge coin, the kind operators exchanged to commemorate shared operations. But this one was different. freshly minted, showing a ghost superimposed over a family tree. Around the edge, ghost family, blood, and choice. "We had them made after tonight," he explained. "One for each member of your family. If they're going to be part of this, they should know they're truly part of it." As the coins were distributed, I saw Marcus hold his with shaking hands. These coins were more than metal. They were acceptance, belonging, redemption, made tangible. "Welcome to the Ghost family," Stone told him formally. "May you never need us, but know we're always there." The war had come home, but home had become something new. Not just a vulnerability to be protected, but a strength to be leveraged. The Matthews family was no longer just connected to the intelligence world. We were part of it, and that would change everything. The world shifted in ways none of us could have predicted over the next 48 hours. What started as a family dinner that ended in violence had become an international incident requiring careful management. I stood in the Secure Facilities Communication Center, watching feeds from around the globe as the cover story Foster and Sarah had crafted took shape. Polish Special Forces announced the prevention of a chemical weapons attack. The CNN international correspondent reported, "In coordination with American intelligence services, operators intercepted what officials describe as a rogue mercenary unit, attempting to weaponize abandoned industrial chemicals." The report was masterfully crafted. Enough truth to satisfy scrutiny, enough omission to protect classified realities. No mention of my unit of Marcus's investigation of the family drama that had nearly torn us apart. Just another successful counter-terrorism operation in a world full of them. But the real story was playing out on my niece's phone. Aunt Clem. Emma called from across the room where she sat with Foster's cyber team. "It's past 1 million views." The video she'd captured during the attack had escaped our initial containment efforts. Despite Foster's team's best efforts, the footage of military helicopters and tactical teams at a suburban home had spread across social media platforms faster than we could suppress it. "Let me see," Sarah said, joining her daughter. Her lawyer's mind immediately began analyzing. The comments are actually supportive. She was right. Instead of conspiracy theories and anti-government sentiment, the comments sections were filled with gratitude. "Thank you for keeping us safe. Heroes don't always wear uniforms. My cousin is special ops. They never get credit for what they do." "We may have miscalculated," Foster admitted. "The public response is overwhelmingly positive. People are treating it as confirmation that their government actively protects them from threats they never see." "Which is true," I pointed out, "just not in the way they think." Marcus entered the communication center with General Hawkins and his captain, Morrison, not the mercenary. He'd spent the morning in his first interrogation of Ray Hutchinson, his former partner. The betrayal had cut deep, but he'd channeled it into methodical intelligence gathering. "Hutchinson flipped 6 months ago," Marcus reported. "Right around the time I started investigating Clem. They got to him through gambling debts, classic recruitment. He fed them information about my investigation, helped steer me toward the conclusions they wanted." "How deep was he?" Hawkins asked. "Deep enough to know about other compromised officers. He's given us 3 names in NYPD, 2 in Boston, 1 in Philly. Morrison's network had law enforcement assets throughout the Northeast Corridor." Captain Morrison shook his head in disgust. 20 years on the force. I trained Hutchinson myself. Never saw it coming." "That's what makes insider threats so dangerous," I said. "They know our blind spots because they share them." My phone buzzed with a secure message. The president wanted a video conference in 10 minutes. Not unusual after an operation of this magnitude, but the participant list included people who rarely met officially. Directors of CIA, NSA, FBI, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. "Showtime," Hawkins muttered. "Matthews family, you're about to witness something most people with top-secret clearance never see. The national security apparatus actually agreeing on something." We assembled in the conference room as secure connections were established. My family, still processing their new reality, watched with fascination as figures they'd only seen in news reports appeared on screens around the room. General Matthews, the president began without preamble. "Outstanding work on Operation Phoenix. I understand there were some unusual circumstances." "That's one way to describe it, sir," I replied. "My operational security was compromised by a family member who was himself being manipulated by foreign intelligence. We managed to turn the situation to our advantage. So I've been briefed, Detective Matthews." The president addressed Marcus directly, causing him to straighten reflexively. "Your actions could have resulted in catastrophe. They also uncovered one of the most significant intelligence networks we've faced. How do we balance those scales?" "By using the intelligence we've gained to prevent future operations, Mr. President," Marcus replied. "I've made terrible mistakes. Let me help fix them." The directors exchanged glances through their video links. The CIA director spoke first. "The Matthews Family Intelligence Support Unit. In my 40 years of intelligence work, I've never heard of anything like it. A burned officer's entire family becoming analytical assets. Unprecedented times call for unprecedented solutions," the chairman of the Joint Chiefs said. "Besides, they've already proven capable. The question is whether we can formalize this without creating larger vulnerabilities." "If I may," my father interjected, his military bearing evident even in civilian clothes. "We're already vulnerable. The question is whether we face those vulnerabilities with training and support or as unprotected civilians." "Colonel Matthews," the president said, recognizing my father's service, "you understand what you're asking. Your entire family would essentially disappear from normal life. Different identities, restricted movements, constant surveillance, albeit protective surveillance. With respect, Mr. President, normal life ended when mercenaries shot up my mother's dining room," my father replied. "We can either be victims of that reality or adapt to it." Emma raised her hand, then seemed to remember this wasn't school, and lowered it. But the president had noticed. "You have something to add, young lady." Yes, sir. Mr. President, sir." Emma fumbled, then found her courage. "Everyone's talking about protecting us or using us, but what about teaching us Aunt Clem knows all this stuff, but the rest of us don't? Couldn't we learn not to be spies, but just to be safer?" "From the mouths of babes," the NSA director murmured. "She has a point. Education might be more valuable than isolation." "The Culper Institute," the FBI director suggested suddenly. Everyone turned to look at his screen. "It's a proposal that's been floating around for years, a training facility for civilians who support intelligence operations, contractors, analysts, technical specialists. We could pilot it with the Matthews family." "You want to send my family to spy school?" Marcus asked incredulously. "Not spy school," the director corrected. "Think of it as intensive operational security education, how to recognize surveillance, maintain cover identities, secure communications, the skills that would keep them safe while allowing them to contribute." "I like it," Hawkins said. "Give them the tools to protect themselves while we figure out long-term arrangements." "Sarah could help develop the legal framework," Foster suggested. "Her expertise in international law would be invaluable for creating the proper structures." "Robert's financial expertise could help track terrorist funding," someone else added. Within minutes, my family members were being assigned roles they'd never imagined. Sarah as legal architect for a new classification of intelligence support, Robert as financial forensic specialist, my parents as advisors based on their years of experience. Even Aunt Patricia, with her society connections, was designated as a social intelligence asset. "This is surreal," Jennifer whispered. "Yesterday, I was a marketing manager. Today, I'm being recruited by the CIA. Technically, you're being recruited by a joint task force that doesn't officially exist," I corrected. "But yes, the surreal part is accurate." The president cleared his throat, bringing attention back to the screens. "There's one more matter to address. General Matthews, your operational cover is blown. You can't return to your previous role." I'd known this was coming, had felt it the moment Marcus slammed those handcuffs on my wrists. 15 years of carefully constructed identity, gone in an instant. "However," the president continued, We're not prepared to lose an asset of your caliber. Director Hawkins has a proposal. Hawkins stood her bearing formal. Prometheus Unit will be reconstituted as Joint Special Operations Command, Asymmetric Warfare Division. Public designation as a counter-terrorism fusion center. General Matthews would serve as commanding officer with expanded authority to integrate unconventional assets. Unconventional meaning my family, I translated. Among others, we've identified similar situations. Intelligence officers whose families have been exposed or threatened. Rather than losing these assets, we create a new paradigm. Family units trained and cleared to support operations. The ghost family concept formalized, General Morrison added from his connection. It has potential. Families understand loyalty in ways individuals sometimes don't. There's still the matter of public perception, the president noted. The video young Emma captured has gone viral. We need to control that narrative. Actually, Emma said, then caught herself. Sorry, should I raise my hand? Speak freely, the president said with slight amusement. Well, everyone online thinks it's awesome. They're calling Aunt Clem the Shadow General and making memes about secret military families protecting America. Maybe we don't fight it. Maybe we let them think what they want. Hide in plain sight, the CIA director mused. Let the public create their own narrative that obscures the truth. It's elegant. And it gives us cover, Foster added. If people think they know the secret, heroic military family fights terrorism, they stop looking for the real secret. Which is what exactly, Marcus asked, that we're all becoming spies, that the line between civilian and operative is blurring. I corrected. That in modern warfare, a detective's financial investigation can be as crucial as a sniper's bullet. That families like ours represent a new kind of national security asset. The president considered this. Very well. We'll proceed with the Culper Institute pilot program. The Matthews family will be the test case. If it works, we expand. If it fails, it won't fail, I said firmly. We've already proven we can work together under fire. Give us proper training and support and we'll exceed expectations. Confidence runs in the family I see, the president observed. General Matthews, you have 60 days to establish the new unit and integrate your family members. Success will be measured by prevented attacks and actionable intelligence. Failure is not an option. Understood, Mr. President. As the video conference ended and officials signed off, my family sat in stunned silence. In less than 3 days, we'd gone from a normal American family with one hidden member to something entirely new. Did we just get recruited by the president? Uncle Robert asked faintly. Technically, you volunteered, I pointed out. But yes, essentially, you've all just joined the intelligence community. God help us, my mother murmured, then stronger. When does training start? Tomorrow, Hawkins answered. Transport to the Culper Institute leaves at 0600. Bring only essential items. Everything else will be provided. As the family dispersed to make preparations, Marcus lingered. Clem this morning, when I interrogated Ray, seeing how easily he betrayed everything we'd built together. Is that what's waiting for us? Constant suspicion, never knowing who to trust. No, I said firmly. What's waiting is constant vigilance, but also deeper bonds than most people ever experience. You'll learn the difference between trust and verification. You'll develop instincts that keep you safe, and you'll have something Ray never had, a family that truly has your back. The ghost family, he said, pulling out the challenge coin he'd been given. Blood and choice. Blood and choice, I confirmed. Welcome to the shadows, brother. Let's see what light we can bring to them. That evening, as arrangements were made and bags were packed, Emma's video crossed 5 million views. The comments had evolved from simple support to complex theories about secret military families protecting America. Some were surprisingly close to the truth, others wildly off base, but all of them served our purposes, creating a narrative camouflage that would hide our real activities. Look at this one, Emma showed me. Someone's writing fan fiction about the Shadow General and her family of spies. It's actually pretty good. I read over her shoulder, amused by how the fictional version of me was somehow both more and less impressive than reality. Well, if they're going to tell stories about us, at least they're making us heroes. Aren't we, Emma asked seriously, heroes? I mean, we stopped bad guys, saved lives, protected America. That's what heroes do. Heroes are people who do necessary things despite the cost, I said. By that definition, yes, we're heroes. Flawed, complicated, classified heroes, but heroes nonetheless. Cool, she said simply, then went back to reading fan fiction about our fictional adventures. The war had come home, but home had transformed into something unprecedented. The Matthews family was no longer just surviving in the shadows. We were learning to thrive in them. And somewhere in the distance, threats were gathering that would test our new unity. But that was tomorrow's battle. Tonight we were together preparing for a future none of us could have imagined. The family business had evolved, and we were evolving with it. 6 weeks into training at the Culper Institute, the Matthews family had transformed in ways that surprised even me. I watched from the observation deck as my 74-year-old father completed an escape and evasion exercise using fieldcraft that would have impressed operators half his age. Below, Sarah was conducting a mock interrogation in Mandarin, while Robert analyzed financial data streams for terrorist markers. Even Aunt Patricia had found her niche using her society connections to practice social engineering scenarios. Your family is exceeding all projected metrics, Director Catherine Walsh said, joining me at the window. The Culper Institute's commanding officer was a legend in intelligence circles, a former CIA operative who'd literally written the book on civilian intelligence integration. They're motivated, I replied. Nothing focuses the mind like being shot at in your grandmother's dining room. Speaking of which, Walsh pulled out a secure tablet. We have a situation that requires the unique capabilities your unit provides. I reviewed the intelligence brief. The UN Security Council was forming a new international peacekeeping initiative, not the traditional blue helmets, but something more sophisticated, a multinational intelligence and operations fusion center designed to prevent conflicts before they required military intervention. They want you to lead it, Walsh said simply. Your reputation from the Morrison operation has spread through intelligence circles. 14 nations have specifically requested your involvement. I'm compromised, I pointed out. My identity is blown. How can I lead a covert unit when my face is all over social media as the Shadow General? That's exactly why they want you, Walsh countered. You've become a symbol, the operative who chose family over shadows. It gives you credibility with nations that distrust traditional American intelligence assets. Through the window, I watched Marcus complete a surveillance detection route. 6 weeks ago, he'd arrested me. Now he moved through the exercise with natural talent, his detective instincts adapting seamlessly to intelligence work. It would mean leaving again, I said quietly. After just getting my family back. Would it? Walsh smiled. Read page 3. I flipped to the designated section and felt my eyebrows rise. The proposal included provisions for family integration, security positions, analytical roles, even educational opportunities for dependents. It was the ghost family concept on an international scale. They're offering to hire my entire family. They're offering to create a new paradigm, Walsh corrected. Intelligence work has always demanded isolation from loved ones. But what if that's backwards? What if family integration actually enhances operational security? A knock interrupted us. Marcus entered, still sweating from his exercise. Clem, Mom needs you in the communications lab. Something about a call from Geneva. Geneva, where the UN initiative was being coordinated. Word traveled fast in intelligence circles. In the secure communications facility, I found my family assembled. Someone had already briefed them on the basics of the offer. The discussion that followed was unlike any operational planning I'd experienced. It's a tremendous opportunity, my mother said carefully, But we've just started to heal as a family. Would this tear us apart again? Not if we do it right, Sarah interjected. She'd pulled up the legal framework on her tablet. Look at these provisions. Family housing on secure compounds, educational allowances for dependents, integration of family members into support roles. They're not just tolerating families, they're incorporating them. It's unprecedented, Robert added. The financial structure alone is revolutionary. Separate funding streams for family security education, even retirement planning that acknowledges the unique sacrifices of intelligence families. But what about Emma? Jennifer asked. Changing schools, leaving friends, living on some international compound? Actually, Emma said, looking up from her own tablet. The international school they're proposing has better STEM programs than anything here, and they offer diplomatic security training for dependents. I could actually learn the stuff you all are learning, just age-appropriate. Trust my tech-savvy niece to have already researched the educational options. The real question, my father said slowly, is whether this serves the mission. Not our comfort, not our preferences. The mission to protect innocent lives and prevent conflicts. Thank you, Colonel Matthews, I said with slight sarcasm, always focusing on the big picture. Someone has to, he replied, without humor. Clementine, you've spent 15 years making decisions based on operational necessity. Don't stop now because family is involved. Make the right call for the right reasons. Marcus had been silent throughout the discussion. Finally, he spoke. 6 weeks ago, I destroyed your career trying to protect this family. Now you have a chance to rebuild it, bigger and better than before. But you're hesitating because of us. I'm hesitating because I just got you back. I admitted. All of you. The thought of jeopardizing that. You're not jeopardizing anything, Grandmother Dorothy said firmly. She'd been quiet knitting in her corner, a new habit that disguised her practice with fiber optic communication cables. You're offering us the chance to be part of something important, to serve alongside you instead of waiting at home wondering if you're alive. It would be dangerous, I warned. International operations, multiple threat vectors, constantly evolving situations. As opposed to the safety of suburban Virginia where mercenaries attack birthday dinners, Patricia asked dryly. Dear, we're already in danger. At least this way we're trained and prepared for it. I want to do it, Marcus said suddenly. Not because I owe you or because I'm trying to make amends. Because for the first time in my career, I see the chance to make a real difference. The financial crimes unit I'd be working with, they're tracking networks that fund terrorism, human trafficking, weapons smuggling. That's the job I thought I was doing as a detective, but on a scale that actually matters. One by one, the family members voiced their support. Even Jennifer, initially reluctant, admitted that the marketing and communications role they'd offered her was more challenging and meaningful than anything in the corporate world. So we're really considering this? I asked. The entire Matthews family relocating to Geneva to staff an international intelligence initiative? Not considering, my mother corrected. Accepting. If you'll lead it, we'll follow. That's what family does. Director Walsh had been monitoring our discussion via secure link. General Matthews, the Security Council, needs an answer within 72 hours. But I should mention, your government has already approved the secondment. In fact, they're encouraging it. Having an American commander with an integrated family unit sends a message about our commitment to multilateral cooperation. Politics, I muttered. Reality, Walsh corrected. Like it or not, you've become a symbol. Use that symbolism to build something unprecedented. Over the next 3 days, as we completed training and prepared for the possibility of international relocation, I watched my family with new eyes. They'd adapted to intelligence life with remarkable speed. Sarah's legal expertise had already identified 3 loopholes in international law that terrorist organizations were exploiting. Robert had traced financial patterns that revealed a previously unknown funding network. Even Emma had proven valuable, her social media monitoring. catching threat indicators that traditional analysis missed. But it was Marcus who surprised me most. His interrogation of Hutchinson had evolved into a comprehensive mapping of law enforcement corruption across the northeastern United States. Working with Foster's team, he'd identified 17 compromised officers and 3 judges who'd been taking bribes from international criminal organizations. "You're a natural at this," Foster told him during one session. "Have you considered that detective work was just preparation for intelligence work?" "Every day," Marcus replied. "Every day I realize how small my world was, how limited my impact. Arresting street criminals while the real threats operated above my pay grade." "Not above it anymore," Foster noted. "Your analysis has led to 43 arrests across 6 countries. That's more impact than most detectives have in a lifetime." The formal offer came on a Thursday morning, delivered by secure courier. The United Nations Security Council in closed session had approved the creation of the International Security Cooperation Initiative. I was offered command with the rank of Director General, equivalent to a 4-star position, but in an international context. The family provisions were even more comprehensive than initially described. Marcus would serve as Deputy Director for Financial Intelligence. Sarah would be Chief Legal Counsel. Robert would head Economic Analysis. My parents would serve as senior advisors, their decades of experience invaluable for navigating international politics. Even Patricia was offered a role in social intelligence, her ability to work a room transformed into an operational asset. "And Emma?" I asked, reading through the youth provisions. "The first student in what they're calling the Next Generation Security Leaders Program," Walsh explained. "Diplomatic training languages, cultural studies, and yes, age-appropriate security education. She'd be preparing for a world where intelligence work isn't isolated from society, but integrated with it." "It's everything we talked about," Jennifer said wonderingly. "The ghost family concept, but legitimate and international." That evening, we held a family meeting that was also an operational planning session. Maps of Geneva covered the dining table. Organizational charts showed how our unit would integrate with existing UN structures. Threat assessments outlined the challenges we'd face. The Petrov Network. Marcus pointed to one assessment. "Russian organized crime with tentacles in 40 countries. They'll see our financial investigations as a direct threat." "The Al-Rashid Syndicate," Sarah added. "They've been exploiting refugee movements to traffic weapons and people. Our legal framework would close loopholes they've used for years." "Multiple Chinese intelligence fronts," Robert contributed. "They won't appreciate our economic analysis revealing their industrial espionage programs." In other words, I summarized, we'll be making enemies from day one. Powerful enemies with global reach. My father agreed. But also allies. Look at the countries supporting this initiative. Nations that rarely agree on anything are united in wanting this to succeed. "Because they're tired of being reactive," I said. "Tired of responding to crises instead of preventing them. This initiative represents a new way forward. Proactive, integrated, international. And family-centered," my mother added firmly. "That's the real revolution. Acknowledging that the people who serve have families who serve alongside them." By unanimous vote, even Grandmother Dorothy raising her hand with firm determination, the Matthews family accepted the Swiss assignment. Within hours, acceptance documents were transmitted, security clearances updated, and preparations begun for international relocation. "You realize what you've all agreed to?" I asked one final time. "This isn't a temporary assignment. This is a fundamental life change. New identities, new home, new mission. The family you were 6 weeks ago will cease to exist." "Good," Marcus said simply. "That family was broken by secrets and lies. This family, the one forged in truth and tested by fire. This family is ready for whatever comes next." Emma raised her hand. "So does this mean I need to learn French?" "Among other languages," I confirmed. "Think you can handle it?" She grinned. "I'm a Matthews. We adapt, overcome, and protect. Languages are just another operational skill, right?" Right. I agreed, marveling at how quickly she'd absorbed our new reality. As the family dispersed to begin packing, Director Walsh pulled me aside. "You know this has never been attempted. An entire family unit cleared and integrated into international intelligence operations. A lot of things have never been attempted until someone attempts them," I replied. "Besides, we're not just any family. We're the ghost family. We've already done the impossible. Survived betrayal attack and transformation. This is just the next mission. And if it fails..." I looked at my family. My father teaching Robert advanced surveillance countermeasures, Sarah helping Emma practice French Marcus, and Jennifer studying Geneva City plans, grandmother Dorothy calmly organizing everyone with the efficiency of a battle-tested commander. "It won't fail," I said with complete confidence. "We're Matthews. We don't know how to fail when we're together." The war hadn't just come home. Home was taking the war global, and this time we were ready for it. The letter arrived on a rain-soaked Geneva morning, hand-delivered by a courier who vanished before I could sign for it. 6 months into our new life running the International Security Cooperation Initiative, unexpected deliveries still triggered operational alerts. But this one bore the seal of the U.S. President. I opened it in my secure office 18 floors above Lake Geneva, in a building that didn't appear on any public registry. Through bulletproof windows, I could see the city waking up. Diplomats heading to the UN bankers starting their day. Tourists photographing the jet d'eau. None of them knew that this anonymous glass tower housed the world's most ambitious intelligence fusion center. The letter was brief, but its impact profound. Marcus was being offered a presidential pardon for his security violations, contingent on one condition: he join my personal security detail as head of family protection. "Interesting morning?" Marcus asked from the doorway. He'd developed an uncanny ability to appear when significant decisions loomed, a skill honed by 6 months of intelligence training. "How did you know?" "Presidential courier vehicles have a specific electromagnetic signature," he said, entering and closing the soundproof door behind him. "Emma's been teaching me her detection techniques." I handed him the letter. He read it twice, his detective's face revealing nothing. "A pardon," he said finally. "Complete expungement of all charges. My record cleared, my law enforcement credentials restored. All I have to do is become your bodyguard." "Head of family security," I corrected. "It's more than close protection. You'd coordinate all security measures for our operational family members." "Your bodyguard with extra responsibilities," he said dryly. "The president's way of keeping me close enough to monitor while using my skills." Through the window, I watched our family's morning routine play out in the courtyard below. My parents walked their security route, my father's military bearing still evident at 74. Sarah was practicing Krav Maga with her instructor, while Emma attended her diplomatic protocol class in the adjacent building. The Matthews family had adapted to Geneva with remarkable efficiency. "You've built something amazing here, Clem," Marcus said, joining me at the window. 6 months and already the ISEI has prevented 3 terrorist attacks, disrupted 7 trafficking networks, and frozen almost $1 billion in illicit funds." "We built it," I corrected. "Your financial investigation unit identified half those networks. Working under your command," he noted. "Which brings us back to this letter. They want to formalize what's already happening. Me working for you, taking orders from my little sister. Is that what bothers you, the hierarchy?" He was quiet for a moment. "What bothers me is that I want to say yes, not because of the pardon or the career rehabilitation, but because it's the right position for me. I've spent 6 months studying security operations, learning from the best in the world. I know I could keep this family safer than anyone else. But it feels like running away from what I did. Taking a pardon instead of facing consequences, getting rewarded for betraying you." I turned from the window to face him directly. "Marcus, you've been facing consequences every day for 6 months. Every security briefing where you hear about threats against us. That's consequence. Every time you see the scars on Team 7's operators, That's consequence. The question isn't whether you've paid for your mistakes. It's whether you're going to let those mistakes define your future. Wise words from the Shadow General, he said with a slight smile. The nickname had followed us to Geneva, much to my annoyance. Practical words from your commanding officer, I corrected. I need someone I trust protecting this family, someone who understands both the operational and personal dynamics, someone who's already proven they'll do anything to keep us safe, even if their methods need refinement. You trust me after everything. I trust the man who helped save Team 7, who spent 6 months dismantling terrorist networks, who reads Emma bedtime stories that secretly teach her escape routes. I smiled at his surprised expression. Yes, I know about those. Goldilocks and the 3 safe houses creative. A knock interrupted us. Jennifer entered with a tablet showing urgent alerts. We have a situation. The Al-Rashid Syndicate just put bounties on IC leadership, significant ones. Marcus immediately shifted into security mode, taking the tablet and analyzing the intelligence. 5 million for you, Clem. 2 million each for department heads. 1 million for family members. They're serious. Source verification, I asked. Confirmed through 3 independent networks, Jennifer replied. Foster's team at the FBI corroborated through their own sources. This is real. Marcus looked at me. This is exactly why you need dedicated security leadership. Someone whose only job is keeping this family safe while you focus on operations. Someone like you. There's no one like me, he said without arrogance. No one else who knows this family's dynamics understands the operational environment and has the motivation to never fail again. I couldn't protect you 6 months ago because I didn't understand the threat. Now I do. Jennifer looked between us. Should I leave you two to discuss? No, I said. This affects you too. Marcus taking this position means our family becomes even more integrated into ISI operations. More training, more security protocols, more restrictions on normal life. Normal life. Jennifer laughed. Emma's learning 4 languages and practices escape routes for fun. I analyze terrorist communications over breakfast. Marcus interrogates international criminals between school pickup. We left normal in Virginia. And you're okay with that? I'm okay with being part of something that matters, she said firmly. Do you know what Emma told me yesterday? She said she's proud that our family stops bad people. That little girl who was terrified in grandmother's dining room now wants to be just like her Aunt Clem. That's worth any inconvenience. My secure phone buzzed, General Hawkins calling from Washington. Patricia, I answered. I assume you're calling about the letter. Among other things, her voice was carefully neutral. The president wanted my assessment of Detective Matthews' suitability for the position. And I told him that Marcus Matthews has proven himself repeatedly over the past 6 months. His financial investigations have been exemplary. His security assessments are thorough and innovative. His dedication to protecting his family is absolute. But the ghost of his betrayal will follow him without this pardon. Every security briefing, every operational meeting, there will always be those who remember how this started. The pardon clears that Slate gives him legitimacy in our world. You support this? I support whatever keeps your unit operational. You've exceeded every expectation, Clementine. The ISCI model is being studied for replication, but success makes you a target, as this morning's bounty proves. You need the best security possible. After ending the call, I found Marcus had moved to the tactical planning wall, already sketching security improvements. The residential compound needs better egress routes, he muttered, and Emma's school requires upgraded surveillance systems. The morning transport rotation is too predictable. You're taking the job, I observed. He turned marker still in hand. I was always going to take it. The moment I read that letter, I knew. This is where I belong, what I'm meant to do. I just needed to process the guilt first. And have you? No. I'll probably carry guilt forever. But I've learned guilt can be fuel if you use it right. Every time I doubt myself, I remember you in handcuffs in grandmother's dining room. It reminds me why I can never be complacent again. Over the next hour, we outlined the new security structure. Marcus would officially become Director of Family Security Operations, reporting directly to me, but with autonomous authority for protective decisions. His team would include operators from 7 different nations, all specially selected for their expertise in protecting intelligence families. "I want Stone on the detail," Marcus said, referring to Team 7's commander. "She's rotating out of field operations soon. There's no one I'd trust more for close protection." "She'll resist. Stone's not the bodyguard type." "She is for this family. We saved her team together. That creates bonds." As we worked, other family members drifted in. Word of the morning's developments had spread through our secure compound with typical efficiency. My father arrived with coffee and tactical suggestions. Sarah brought legal frameworks for the new position. Robert had financial projections for the expanded security budget. "Family meeting," I asked as the office filled. "Family strategy session," my mother corrected. "If Marcus is taking this role, we all need to understand how it affects us." What followed was unlike any security briefing I'd attended. Instead of passive protectees receiving instructions, my family actively participated in their own safety planning. Emma suggested drone surveillance patterns based on her coding classes. Patricia recommended social events that would provide intelligence opportunities while maintaining security. Grandmother Dorothy, now 86 but sharp as ever, pointed out vulnerabilities in our medical response protocols. "This is what makes us different," Marcus said, watching the collaborative planning. "We're not protecting victims. We're protecting operators who happen to be family." "The Ghost family evolved," Sarah agreed, "from hidden supporters to active participants." By noon, we'd outlined a comprehensive security structure that went far beyond traditional protection details. Marcus's role would encompass physical security, operational security intelligence gathering, and family integration. It was a position that had never existed before because a family like ours had never existed before. "One condition," I told Marcus as the meeting concluded. "The pardon comes with strings. You'll have to testify before a closed Senate committee about your investigation, help them understand how foreign intelligence manipulated you." Teaching moment for other law enforcement. "Exactly. Your mistakes become lessons that protect others from similar manipulation." "Then I'll do it gladly. If my failure helps prevent others, it becomes something useful." That afternoon, I watched Marcus coordinate his first official security briefing as Director of Family Security Operations. He'd traded his detective's casual authority for something more refined, the precise competence of someone who'd found their true calling. Effective immediately, all family movement requires 3-layer verification, he announced to the assembled security team. Layer 1, physical reconnaissance. Layer 2, electronic surveillance countermeasures. Layer 3, human intelligence verification. No exceptions, including for the general. Especially for the general, I added, supporting his authority. The bounty on me makes complacency lethal. After the briefing, as teams dispersed to implement new protocols, Marcus found me on the observation deck. "No second thoughts?" I asked. "None. This morning I was a detective playing at intelligence work. Now I'm exactly what this family needs, someone who understands both worlds and failed badly enough to never underestimate threats again." "From betrayer to protector," I mused. "That's quite a journey." "Not a journey," he corrected. "An evolution. I was always trying to protect family. Now I know how to do it right." That evening, as our newly enhanced security measures took effect, I stood in my office watching the sun set over Lake Geneva. The Matthews family had completed another transformation. We'd arrived as refugees from violence, evolved into intelligence professionals, and now emerged as something unprecedented, a fully integrated operational family unit. My secure phone buzzed with a message from the president. "Pardon approved. Welcome Director Matthews to his new position. The nation is safer for your family's service." I showed the message to Marcus, who read it with mixed emotions clear on his face. Director Matthews, he said quietly, from arresting generals to protecting them. From breaking trust to embodying it, I corrected. The title doesn't matter. What matters is that my family is safer with you watching over us. Our family, he corrected, and they'll be safer than safe. They'll be prepared, trained, and protected by someone who knows the cost of failure. As night fell over Geneva, the Matthews family settled into our new reality. Marcus's security teams took their positions. Intelligence flowed through our analysis centers. Somewhere in the darkness, threats gathered and plans formed against us. But we were ready. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed us had instead forged us into something stronger. Marcus's transformation from accuser to protector completed the circle, turning our greatest vulnerability into our greatest strength. The war had come home, followed us across an ocean, and evolved into something larger than any of us had imagined. But the Matthews family had evolved too, and we would face whatever came next, the way we'd learned to face everything, together. The Medal of Honor ceremony was scheduled for 1400 hours at Grandmother Dorothy's rebuilt dining room, the very place where our family's transformation had begun 8 months earlier. What should have been a moment of pure celebration carried an undercurrent of tension that had nothing to do with the honor being bestowed. Marcus stood at the security checkpoint he'd established at the property's entrance, his entire bearing different from the detective who'd arrested me in this very house. His team, a mix of American special operators and international security specialists, processed each arrival with quiet efficiency. Icarus 6 report, he said into his throat mic using the call sign he'd adopted for the operation. Perimeter secure. Lieutenant Colonel Stone's voice responded. She'd accepted the position on our security detail, bringing 4 Team 7 operators with her. No unusual activity. But I knew Marcus too well. The slight tension in his shoulders, the way his hand kept drifting toward his concealed weapon. Something was wrong. Talk to me, I said quietly, joining him at the checkpoint. Maybe nothing, he replied, eyes scanning constantly. But we've had 3 delivery vehicles in the neighborhood that don't match any scheduled routes, and the electromagnetic patterns Emma's been tracking show unusual signals. Emma, our 16-year-old tech prodigy, had become an integral part of our security apparatus. Her age-appropriate training had evolved into genuine operational capability. Show me, I ordered. He pulled up a tablet displaying real-time intelligence feeds. The patterns were subtle, slight anomalies in cell tower traffic, unusual vehicle movements, discrepancies in satellite imagery, individually meaningless, but together. They're here, I said quietly. Who? Marcus asked, though his expression suggested he already knew. Someone who doesn't want this ceremony to happen. Someone who sees my public recognition as a threat to their operations. I activated my own communication device. All stations, this is Prometheus. Increased to threat level orange. Possible hostile surveillance detected. The response was immediate but subtle. Security positions, adjusted escape routes were verified, and medical teams moved to ready positions. To any casual observer, nothing had changed. But our family compound had just transformed from a celebration venue to a hardened defensive position. Inside the ceremony, preparations continued. The president had arrived an hour earlier, along with select members of the Joint Chiefs and intelligence leadership. My family mingled with distinguished guests, each playing their role while maintaining operational awareness. My father engaged the Secretary of Defense in discussion about Vietnam-era tactics, casually positioning himself to observe all entrances. Sarah chatted with the Attorney General about international law, while her eyes tracked every movement. Even Grandmother Dorothy, now aided by a walker but still sharp, had positioned herself where she could monitor the kitchen access. You've trained them well, General Hawkins observed, joining me. They trained themselves, I corrected. I just gave them the tools. And your brother, his transformation has been remarkable. I watched Marcus coordinate with his team, his movements economical and precise. He found his purpose. Sometimes our greatest failures teach us who we're meant to become. Speaking of which, Hawkins pulled out an encrypted phone. We've identified the surveillance. It's the Petrov network. They're not happy about your unit's recent disruption of their Baltic operations. The Petrov network, Russian organized crime with intelligence connections. We'd cost them nearly $300 million in the past month alone. Assault team, I asked. Unknown. Could be surveillance only gathering intelligence for future operations. Or they're waiting for the right moment to strike. I finished. When we're most vulnerable, most public. The Medal of Honor ceremony. Maximum publicity. Senior government officials present my entire family in one location. From an operational perspective, it was a perfect target. Recommend postponing, Hawkins said. Negative. That shows weakness, lets them dictate our actions. I made a decision. We proceed as planned, but we turn their trap into ours. You want to use the Medal of Honor ceremony as bait. I want to show them that the Matthews family doesn't hide from threats. We face them. Over the next hour, as guests arrived and the ceremony approached, our security posture shifted subtly. Marcus repositioned assets based on the surveillance patterns. Stone's team prepared counter-assault positions. Emma deployed her drone network, providing real-time overhead coverage. But it was the family's response that truly impressed. Without any explicit coordination, they began maneuvering guests away from windows, creating natural groupings that would be easier to protect, establishing clear fields of fire for our security teams. It's like watching a ballet, the FBI director murmured to Foster. They're running a security operation while hosting a party. The Matthews family doesn't do anything halfway, Foster replied. They've become what we always hoped was possible, civilians with operator mindsets. At 13:50 hours, 10 minutes before the ceremony, Marcus appeared at my elbow. We have movement. 3 vehicles approaching from different vectors. Thermal imaging shows multiple occupants' body armor probable. Positions. Northeast and southwest. Classic assault pattern. He paused. Clem, we can still abort. Get everyone to the safe room extract via the tunnel system. And let them win. I shook my head. The Matthews family doesn't run. The Matthews family also doesn't needlessly risk lives for pride, he countered. There are 30 civilians here, including the president. He was right, of course. The responsible decision would be to abort, evacuate, regroup. But something deeper drove my decision, a need to show that 8 months after they'd first attacked us here, we were no longer victims. Marcus, do you trust me? He didn't hesitate. With my life. Then trust me now. Alert positions, prepare for contact, but let them come. We have advantages they don't expect. At 13:58, my mother approached the podium to introduce the ceremony. Her voice was calm, even as she knew violence might erupt at any moment. 8 months ago, in this very room, our family discovered truths that changed everything we thought we knew. Today, we celebrate not just my daughter's service, but the transformation of an entire family. She was midway through her speech when it happened. The lights flickered. Emma's signal that electronic warfare had begun. Someone was jamming communications, preparing for assault. Contact imminent, Marcus said calmly into his throat mic. All positions stand by. But the attack came from an unexpected direction. Not the vehicles we'd been tracking. Those were decoys. The real threat emerged from a catering van that had arrived hours earlier before our enhanced surveillance was in place. The back doors burst open and figures in tactical gear emerged, weapons raised. But they'd made a crucial error. They'd assumed we were a soft target protected only by traditional security. They hadn't counted on grandmother Dorothy. At 86, she moved with surprising speed, her walker concealing a directed energy weapon Emma had designed. The electromagnetic pulse disabled their night vision and electronic sights, leaving them momentarily blind. Now, Marcus commanded. The response was instantaneous. Stone's team engaged from concealed positions. Security personnel drew weapons, and the Matthews family, trained for exactly this scenario, executed their parts flawlessly. Sarah triggered hidden barriers that compartmentalized the room. Robert activated financial countermeasures that froze the attackers' operational accounts, in real time displaying the zeroed balances on screens throughout the room. Psychological warfare at its finest. Patricia deployed smoke grenades hidden in decorative arrangements, creating concealment for evacuating civilians. But it was Emma who provided the decisive advantage. Her drone network, operating on frequencies the jammers hadn't anticipated, provided real-time intelligence to every defender. Attackers found themselves anticipated at every turn, their tactical advantages negated by a 16-year-old with a gift for electronic warfare. The firefight lasted less than 3 minutes. When the smoke cleared, 14 attackers were in custody, 6 wounded but alive, thanks to our emphasis on non-lethal takedowns. No civilians had been harmed, though the dining room would need another renovation. Clear. Marcus called his team, confirming the all clear. Medical teams in, secure the prisoners for interrogation. I found myself standing in almost the exact spot where Marcus had arrested me 8 months earlier. But this time, instead of handcuffs and betrayal, we stood victorious against a common enemy. "You knew," he said, not quite an accusation. "You knew they'd attack during the ceremony." I suspected. The Petrov network values dramatic gestures. They wanted to humiliate us, publicly show that even with our training and preparation, we were vulnerable. I smiled grimly. Instead, they gave us the opportunity to show the world what the Matthews family has become. The president, who'd been efficiently evacuated to a secure location during the brief fight, returned to find the situation resolved. His expression mixed admiration with calculation. "General Matthews, this is highly irregular," he said formally. Then more quietly, "and absolutely brilliant. You turned an assassination attempt into a demonstration of capability." "Not me, sir, my family. Every one of them played their part perfectly." The ceremony proceeded, though now with battle damage as a backdrop. As the president placed the Medal of Honor around my neck, he spoke words that weren't in the prepared remarks. "This medal recognizes not just General Matthews' individual heroism, but the service of an entire family. The Matthews family has redefined what it means to serve in the shadows, showing that strength comes not from isolation, but from unity." As photographs were taken and congratulations offered, I noticed Marcus coordinating prisoner transport with Stone. His transformation was complete, from the detective who'd tried to destroy me to the security director who'd helped save a president. "No regrets?" I asked, joining him. "None," he said firmly. 8 months ago, I thought protecting family meant exposing lies. Now I know it means living difficult truths. This, he gestured at the controlled chaos around us. This is who we are now, who we were always meant to be. Emma appeared, tablet in hand. "Aunt Clem, initial interrogation suggests this was just the first wave. The Petrov network has allocated significant resources to eliminating our family." "Then they'll be disappointed," I said, "because the Matthews family doesn't eliminate easily." "Ghost family," Marcus corrected. "Blood and choice, remember, and ghosts are notoriously hard to kill." As the afternoon wore on, the failed attack became something more than just another security incident. It was validation of everything we'd built, proof that a family could transform from victims to victors, from protected to protectors. The war had come home 8 months ago. Today, home had won decisively, and everyone watching, allies and enemies alike, understood that the Matthews family was no longer just surviving in the shadows. We owned them. The Rose Garden ceremony took place on a perfect September morning, exactly 1 year after that fateful dinner at Grandmother Dorothy's house. Where once our family's secret had nearly destroyed us, now we stood ready to change how America thought about service and sacrifice. Ladies and gentlemen, The president began addressing the carefully selected audience and the millions watching live. Today we acknowledge a truth long hidden in shadows. Those who serve our nation in classified capacities do not serve alone. Their families serve alongside them, carrying burdens the public never sees. I stood with my family, all of us in formal attire that concealed the sophisticated security measures Marcus had insisted upon. The Petrov network's failed attacks 6 months earlier had only intensified their efforts against us. 3 more attempts had been thwarted, each teaching us new lessons about vigilance and preparation. The Matthews family, the president continued, has proven that strength comes not from isolation but from unity. Today we formally acknowledge what they've built, a new paradigm for intelligence operations in the modern world. General Patricia Hawkins stepped forward to read the official proclamation. By executive order, the Culper Institute for Intelligence Family Integration is hereby established as a permanent training facility. The Matthews model, as it's become known, will be available to all intelligence families who choose to serve together rather than apart. I felt Marcus's hand on my shoulder. My brother, my former betrayer, now my most trusted protector. In the year since he'd arrested me, he'd prevented 7 attempts on our family's lives and revolutionized how we thought about operational security. Furthermore, Hawkins continued, the International Security Cooperation Initiative under General Matthews' leadership will expand to include family integration units from allied nations. The ghost family concept goes global. Applause rippled through the audience, but I was watching my family's faces. My parents, now in their mid-70s, wore expressions of quiet pride. They'd found new purpose in their golden years, their experience invaluable in navigating the complex world we inhabited. Sarah had become one of the world's foremost experts on legal frameworks for intelligence operations. Her work had closed dozens of loopholes terrorists once exploited. Robert's financial analysis had traced and frozen over $2 billion in illicit funds. Even Aunt Patricia had found her calling her society connections, revealing intelligence that no satellite could capture. But it was Emma who represented our greatest success. Now 17, she'd grown from a frightened girl recording a family crisis to a confident young woman who'd already contributed to 3 major operations. Her acceptance to MIT's Special Security Technology program meant the next generation would be even better prepared than we were. General Matthews. The president said, "Would you like to say a few words?" I stepped to the podium, looking out at faces both familiar and unknown. Former enemies sat in the audience. Some imprisoned others turned to our cause. Team 7 was there in full dress uniform, stone, now wearing the stars of a general officer. The Culper Institute's latest class of intelligence families watched from the back rows, learning from our example. 1 year ago, I began. My brother arrested me for impersonating a military officer. He was wrong about the crime, but right about one thing. I had been impersonating someone. I'd pretended to be alone, convinced that isolation meant strength, that protecting my family meant keeping them in darkness. I paused, meeting Marcus's eyes. His investigation, painful as it was, revealed a fundamental truth. Secrets are only as strong as the trust that protects them. My family's strength wasn't in what they didn't know. It was in who they were willing to become when the truth emerged. Murmurs of agreement came from the intelligence families present. They understood the weight of secrets, the cost of silence. Today, we stand not as the exception, but as the example. The Matthews family proves that civilians can bear the weight of classification, that families can be operational assets rather than vulnerabilities, that love and duty need not be separated. I gestured to each family member as I continued. A detective who became a security director, a lawyer who became an international legal architect, a financial advisor who became a terrorist funding expert, parents who became advisors to a new generation, a teenager who became a technical operations specialist, even an 87-year-old grandmother who proved that courage has no expiration date. Grandmother Dorothy raised her cane in acknowledgement, drawing laughter and applause. But our greatest transformation wasn't in our capabilities. It was in our understanding. We learned that true strength comes from facing hard truths together rather than comfortable lies alone. That redemption is possible for those brave enough to seek it. That families bound by choice are as strong as those bound by blood. I pulled out my challenge coin, the one given to Marcus by Team 7. The Ghost Family motto: blood and choice. We are bound by blood but defined by our choices. Marcus chose to investigate me out of love. I chose to forgive out of understanding. We all chose to transform pain into purpose. The audience was silent, now absorbing the words. To those watching who carry classified burdens, who lie to loved ones to protect larger truths, who sacrifice connection for security, know that there's another way. The shadows need not be lonely. The weight need not be carried alone. I looked directly at the cameras, knowing that somewhere other intelligence officers were watching with their families. And to those who've been kept in darkness, who've wondered why their loved ones disappeared into vague government work, understand that their silence was its own form of love. They protected you the only way they knew how. But now, if you choose, you can stand beside them. The president joined me at the podium. The Matthews family has given us a gift, proof that our greatest asset isn't technology or tactics, but the bonds between people willing to serve. Today, we don't just honor them, we follow their example. As the ceremony concluded and we mingled with guests, a young woman approached hesitantly. She wore the uniform of an Air Force captain, her intelligence insignia newly pinned. General Matthews, I'm Captain Jessica Chen. My husband doesn't know what I really do. After today, do you think he could handle the truth? Before I could answer, Marcus appeared. Captain, the truth is never as damaging as the lies we tell to avoid it. I nearly destroyed my family trying to uncover my sister's truth. If I'd simply trusted, asked, communicated... He shrugged. The path is harder when you walk it alone. But some secrets, she began, are meant to be shared with those who've earned the right to know them. Sarah interjected, joining us. The legal framework exists now. The Culper Institute can train families. The only question is whether you're brave enough to try. As the captain walked away thoughtful, I realized this was our true legacy. Not the operations we'd run or the threats we'd stopped, but the path we'd blazed for others to follow. Emma appeared with her ever-present tablet. Aunt Clem's social media is exploding. #GhostFamily is trending globally. Thousands of intelligence officers are sharing their own struggles with secrecy and family. Let them share, I said. It's time these stories came into the light. That evening, we held a private gathering at our secure facility. No cameras, no dignitaries, just the Matthews family and our extended operational family. The walls displayed photos from the past year, training exercises, successful operations, quiet moments between missions. A toast my father proposed raising his glass, to transformation through truth, to redemption through action, to families who choose to face the darkness together. Together we echoed the word carrying weight earned through blood tears and triumph. Marcus pulled me aside as the celebration continued. You know this is just the beginning, right? Every intelligence family, we train every operative who chooses transparency over isolation. They're all going to face what we faced. But they won't face it alone, I reminded him. They'll have the roadmap we created, the support structures we built, the proof that it's possible. The Matthews model, he mused, from family disgrace to international example in 1 year. From betrayal to belonging, I corrected. You taught us that, Marcus, that even our worst moments can become catalysts for transformation. Grandmother Dorothy approached, moving slowly but determinedly. You know what your grandfather would say about all this? That we've compromised operational security on a massive scale, I suggested. That we've finally understood what he always knew, she corrected. The mission matters, but the people accomplishing it matter more. He'd be proud of what we've become. As the evening progressed, I found myself on the observation deck looking out over the lights of the city we protected. A year ago, those lights had seemed distant, separated from me by walls of secrecy. Now they felt connected, part of the larger community we served openly. "No regrets?" Hawkins asked, joining me. "None," I said firmly. "Every choice led us here, to a place where families don't have to choose between truth and safety, where service doesn't require isolation, where even our failures can become foundations for something better." "The war came home," she observed, "and home transformed the war." I thought about all the intelligence families who would follow our path, the operations that would be strengthened by family support, the lives that would be saved by our example. "Let them come," I said quietly. "The threats, the challenges, the impossible choices. The Matthews family, the Ghost family, will face them as we've learned to face everything." "Together," Hawkins agreed. "Together," I confirmed, "always together." As midnight approached, marking exactly 1 year since Marcus's investigation had shattered our carefully constructed lies, I gathered my family for one final announcement. "The President asked me a question today that I couldn't answer without consulting you all. The UN wants to expand the ISCI model globally. 5-year commitment based in Geneva, but with operations worldwide. It would mean continuing this life. The danger, the secrecy, the sacrifice. But also the purpose," Robert added. "The meaning, the impact, the difference we make." "The family we've become," Jennifer said, holding Marcus's hand. "I'm in," Emma said immediately. "MIT has a distance program for operational necessities." One by one they voted. Unanimous agreement, as I'd known it would be. We'd found our calling in the shadows, and we wouldn't abandon it now. "Then the Ghost family goes global," I announced. "May God help anyone who threatens the innocent on our watch." As we prepared to leave to return to our secure compound and plan for the future, Marcus stopped me one last time. "Clem, thank you." "For what?" "For forgiving me, for trusting me, for showing me that redemption isn't just possible, it's powerful." "Thank you," I countered, "for having the courage to seek truth even when that truth nearly destroyed us. Your investigation saved us all, just not in the way any of us expected." "The Matthews way," he said with a smile. "Finding victory in defeat, strength in vulnerability, family in the most unlikely places." "The Ghost family way," I corrected. "Blood and choice, shadows and light always together." As we walked out into the night, I knew that somewhere other families were having difficult conversations about truth and lies service and sacrifice. They would struggle, as we had struggled, doubt, as we had doubted. But they would also discover what we had learned, that the strongest families aren't those without secrets, but those who choose to face their secrets together. That redemption comes not from perfection, but from the courage to transform our failures into foundations for something better. The war had come home. Home had transformed the war. And in that transformation, we'd found something more powerful than any weapon, more valuable than any intelligence, more enduring than any threat. We'd found each other. And that more than any medal or recognition was our true victory. "Hey, readers," I said, turning to address you directly. "If you've made it this far, you've witnessed our family's journey from betrayal to belonging, from secrets to strength. But here's my question for you. What secrets are you keeping from those you love? What truths might set your family free if you found the courage to share them? Remember, we're only as strong as the trust between us." Sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the strongest bonds. Would you choose comfortable lies or difficult truths? Let me know in the comments below. And if our story resonated with you, please subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that redemption is always possible, that families can survive anything when they face it together. Thank you for joining us in the shadows. May you find your own light there. Until next time, remember, Ghost Family isn't just about blood or choice. It's about having the courage to transform your deepest wounds into your greatest strengths. Stay safe, stay strong, and most importantly, stay together.